matchup. MVP. KT Rolster. 2016 Coca-Cola Zero League of Legends Champions Korea Summer Round 1.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 3 of week 1 of the LCK. I'm Achilles. This is Papa Smithy, and we are bringing you the action today. And we have our second Korean Challenger team that made it through the promotion tournament playing tonight for the first time. It's MVP going up against KT Rolster.
And what a storied organization, Achilles. That's kind of the thing that especially new fans of Champions need to take away is that, of course, MVP previously was that Samsung organization. So MVP, they fielded MVP Ozone, MVP Blue, even MVP Red a long time ago that didn't even make it to Champions. The Ozone org, infamous in its Samsung Ozone days.
Yep.
The org went on to Worlds under the banner of Samsung. They signed up with Samsung in September 2013, and it was only back in November, so November 2015, 2 years later, the MVP made their first re-entry into League of Legends. Everyone wondered, okay, what's this all going to do? Are they going to try and buy maybe Kongdu Monster's spot in Champions? Are they going to try to go for that direct seed? But no, they decided to instead build up a challenger team. Remember, a challenger team that included EVER, the team that was really redefining what it meant to be a challenger team in that same month of November in the Kesper Cup. They went on, they won that challenger scene, at least the regular season, ended up finishing second overall, but re-qualified and now MVPs. Back in Champions.
That they are, and it wasn't really an easy road for them either, however, as you mentioned, like the thought of maybe buying a spot via Kongdu Monster, that's exactly who they played in the promotion tournament, and they actually lost a game to Kongdu Monster, which was definitively the worst team in Champions last split.
And I think MVP is going to have an uphill battle in this split. I'm not ready to say already that they're the worst team, but at least manpower. You're just looking at their players on paper, you'd have to take basically every other squad pretty comfortably above them. So
yeah.
What can the coaching staff get out of this lineup? They haven't added a substitute. In fact, both teams today, no substitutes. So we will definitely see the same 5-man rosters throughout the series.
That we will. But yeah, having to prove a lot right here, especially as you mentioned, formerly, MVP then turned Samsung. We saw Samsung yesterday, and they just blew ROX Tigers out of the water. Now MVP coming in against KT Rolster, the third-place team from last split. They have a lot to prove coming into this game because in promotions did look very shaky, rather. And we saw ESC EVER take down CJ looking really strong coming out the gate.
And look, EVER, a lot of analysts, myself included, really expecting a lot, not expecting so much for MVP, a team that did beat EVER pretty routinely throughout the course of the season, only went down 3-2 in that Challengers final. So those two teams are very close. We'll see how their fairings are during the season. Samsung, going to have to really ruminate on that big result yesterday over the ROX Tigers, is really thrown a curveball in a lot of ways, and now we have to see how do KT Rolster stack up, because KT are kind of a really interesting team to think about. They had good patches of summer, like a lot of teams did. They ended up finishing third overall, but that semifinal, specifically against SKT, was another one-sided telecom war, and that's kind of always been the story. Apart from that famous KT Arrows run, pipping SKT has always been a bridge too far for KT Rolster.
Yep, but it is the summer, which is KT's time to shine. Yet again, perhaps.
We have a nice graphic to illustrate that, but they always do seem to pick up in summer. Remember, made it to the Champions Summer Final last year, losing to SKT 3-0. That's unfortunately the stat that always comes through. But making the final is at least something to talk about.
It's significantly better than what we saw in the end of the playoffs there for spring this last split. Didn't have too great of a showing, and unfortunately weren't able to make it to that final. Could have been completely different had they been able to. You never know what would have happened in that exchange if they were up against ROX Tigers, who they did beat in the regular split. But now have to go through MVP. Like you said, not expecting a whole lot from these guys. They looked incredibly shaky coming out of promotions. And the question is there enough time, has enough time passed for them to actually get to a level where they can take down KT Rolster?
That question we don't have an answer for just yet, as we see the 5 and only 5-man squad of MVP. But one question we can answer is, it is great to see such a famous Korean multi-esport organization back in Champions. And they still have time to add some substitutes onto the roster. Still some of those really good players from Spenu and Kongu. There definitely were, at least AD carry-wise, some potential upgrades, at least from what we saw from Maha specifically in the promotion tournament available. So look, they're going to start with this lineup. It doesn't mean they're relegated to only fielding them. Let's get some data points about MVP, because maybe they'll look competitive. Because if they're competitive against Ever, a team that basically crushed CJ a few days ago, maybe that means they have an outside shot against some, especially the bottom half teams in Champions.
Yeah, I mean, given how we saw CJ perform and Longzhu even just
Sure.
2 days ago, there's a lot of potential for MVP to actually rise above those teams and maybe find themselves in like a top 6 spot here in the LCK Summer Split. A lot of questions that won't be answered until we get around the playoffs, but this will be a good indicator for whether or not these guys have improved, have made progress with this 5-man composition that they've been keeping. Big question is going to be beyond how is he going to perform in the jungle, because he's historically fairly inconsistent. But here they are on your screen. It is, as you could hear, the crowd favorite at the moment, KT Rolster, keeping everything nice and neat with these guys. Someday, of course, coming back in the top side. We'll see if he's able to have a better split, because, you know, last year everyone would renown him as the best top laner in the world, and in spring really faltered heavily, but now maybe we're seeing a swap as Smeb is starting to falter. Maybe someday we'll inch back on top.
He faltered in one series. Let's give Smeb the benefit of the doubt. He's had quite the 18
I don't think
months.
Smeb's down and out by any means.
Now remember, right at the end of spring, KT trimmed Ignar off the lineup, also having only 5 members. They haven't picked up any substitute players, whether it's for support, because Achani, obviously one of those older players. I think having healthy competition for him will really help his performance. And in the mid lane, Fly had a really interesting re-debut in Champions, of course. Had spent some time in the LSPL during the course of 2015. Had some great games, but the big question mark over him was consistently champion ball. It never felt like he really played the meta. It felt like there were Fly champions and there were champions that Fly didn't play. And that can really hurt as these big patches come through. Now the mage rework comes through. One prediction I'll make. You know, you look through the mage rework, there's some champions really on the edge of the meta. I bet Fly has one of them, and I have a feeling that Veigar is very much in his wheelhouse. That really does feel like a Fly champion next to something like the Aurelion Soul, because he definitely does kind of have a different approach to mid lane than a lot of those other mid laners.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big one for pulling out the Zilean.
Lux as well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Faker pick the Zilean against him in that playoff match just to say, you know what, I'm going to take this away from you, and I'm going to beat you with it. And beat him, he did, right over the head.
This is the fun graphic. You just compare the performances between spring and summer, and the win rate jumps up. You see 20% back in 2013, smaller in 2014, but they really were revitalized with Peekaboo joining the lineup in 2015 summer, and just overall a 14% jump in the history of champions for KT Rolster between spring and summer means that it's looking like good reading for KT fans.
Yep, that it is. And they've had some strong words coming into this match about how they feel about their opponent. In an interview, Achani said that, you know, about both MVP and Ever, he says that he doesn't think that they're very dangerous. He said as long as we don't get too careless, don't go too ham, and we play, you know, intelligently, we will come out on top of this, no problem.
And there's a couple of feelings in the bot lane that now that you speak about it, specifically Maha, the AD carry for MVP, used to be Mark, of course, was a KT Rolster sub back in summer last year, so he's been around the KT Rolster organization. It's going to be fun seeing the man that, of course, he was substitute to, Arrow, take on Maha in the bot lane. Maha never actually got to play a game on the KT org, but you know they were definitely practicing in scrim experiences and 1v1 in the KT house, so there's going to be a bit of feeling around bot lane. And Max, he's looking to make a big re-debut in Champions. He played a couple of games for CJ Entus in that same season, went away, has built up a huge reputation on this MVP organization. A lot of players were calling for him to be the true MVP of the entire split. He was the most impressive performer consistently, because he and Beyond were definitely the shining stars of this lineup. Beyond, as you said, can have his off days, but on his day was certainly the best jungler in Challenger, and Max was just super consistent. It was great to see him finally play a full split, and it's going to be interesting to see how he looks like in a long champion split as well.
Yeah, well, he's going up against the self-proclaimed best support in the LCK, in the
Johnny
world,
really
actually.
say that?
Yes, he did. He said, #1 support is me, second is Gorilla, third is Wolf.
Well, a lot of humility coming through from Hachan. He's always been a bit of a personality, that one.
But wait, there's more. He said, don't care about the other ones because they are below me.
Well, I guess what? We can't even talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Hachani has spoken.
Yeah. But, I mean, this would be a great time for Max to come in, show that MVP performance, and shut Hachani right up.
Hawk would say MVP performance when he plays for MVP.
Yeah, it's a little bit of
An
odd thing.
MVP level performance can now become some sort of Bronx cheer-esque thing. Another MVP level performance.
Well, it's not as bad as when I had Soul and Soul in the same game playing against each other. That was a really interesting one.
I mean, there was also Lee playing Lee Sin against Eve playing Eve. That was interesting.
yeah, there's always some weird crossovers that occur, but straight into pick and ban here
And
on your screen.
You mentioned the word weird, and of course, one of the picks that, at least in the LCK, was pioneered by KT was that Zilean. Fly was the first Zilean master, showing that you can have a lot of lane control, play that champion more aggressively than we expected, flash in for double bomb stuns. And then Faker picked it up, and also by the time playoffs came around was very proficient on it. So we're banning the pocket picks, and the Zilean, very much a KT-specific ban.
Yeah. The rest of these, though, are going to be pretty consistent. Rise taken away by KT. It's going to be Trundle to follow from MVP. Still a very powerful flex pick for that support or top lane role. The Caitlyn taken away from Maha in the bot lane.
And look, taking comfort away from a player who did struggle specifically in that promotion match, Maha had a lot of issues. It felt like the team almost won in spite of him rather than really anchored by his performances. He was definitely the one held down the most. Now taking some comfort away. Caitlyn is really surprising to see as a ban if you're a new viewer to this season, because of course Caitlyn almost saw no play in spring, a couple of games at most.
Yep.
We've seen a lot of it this week. It's very much back in the meta, and an AD carry ban against Maha makes a degree of sense.
Yeah, but Lucian, the prime pick for 80 carries at the moment, does go through, so it's going to be the first pick here for MVP. Final bans from either side. Nothing too shocking. It's going to be the Kindred and the Nidalee following suit. So we're pretty much back to the spot where our junglers are probably going to be Elise and, that Rek'Sai coming out in this match. We'll have to see as they continue in through the draft right now. KT playing around with the idea of this Maokai. Interestingly enough, we do have the Echo available. Have to see if that gets picked up.
I mean, a lot has made it through the draft. Victor is now once again a staple of the mid lane. Fly was defaulting to that before those Victor nerfs came through.
I mean, we saw Crown blowing people up left and right just yesterday with the Victor, so definitely a champion that would want to be prioritized here by any team, really, especially for Fly.
But maybe don't have to reach for it first. Someday has always been synonymous with the Maokai. This is by far his highest win rate champion, and next to his most played, next to the Renekton, of course, that he was famous for at the start of his career. They're not going to lock it in just yet. They will go for the aforementioned Rek'Sai. Score, when he debuted in the jungle role in spring season last year, one of his first staples was the Rek'Sai, because this guy can play an excellent control jungler. And of course, he spent a whole season playing 80 carries in the jungle, which, given his previous role, made a lot of sense. But it's going to be fun to see him return to a champion like Rek'Sai, because when this guy is on form, he runs the early game for KT and is often the linchpin and the quarterback for setting up their early games. They've always been a strong late game team, but it feels like Score needs to get ahead for the early game to run as planned for KT Rolston.
I mean, that was just basically how everything went. If Score got ahead, then KT typically won the game in last split, so I have to agree with you there. So
Someday Korea is 23-6, 79, 80% almost win rate on the Maokai. So they can get it. They'll probably reach for it, but MVP is certainly considering taking it away. Yeah, locked in.
And they do. And Braum to go with Illusion in the bot side. So we'll see what KT wants to do with this newfound information, what they want to grab up for the top lane, because Echo available, but Echo into Maokai, not really the matchup you want to aim for. So what do you think they're going to go for in this current meta to go up against a giant tree?
There's a lot of choices. It's probably going to end up being a farm lane. Poppy, of course, is available. Echo is fine. You don't have any kill pressure, but you do apply lane pressure, which can be enough to make up for the lanes. They've got amazing wave clear if they do go for Sivir, Echo, Victor. Like, you cannot ask for more line wave clear. Okay. So now the question is, what do they commit for? The final bit is only going to be support. So this is very much going to be... It just feels like a draft where if you had one less lane decided, it'd be about having a hyper carry somewhere, but instead it's going to be super high pressure, and then the Rek'Sai also being able to push forward and get even more vision. So really liking the pressure draft from KT. And that's a Lucian and a Twitch locked in for MVP. So is this going to be some mid lane Lucian?
It looks like it might be. I mean, it would have to be, because you don't want to put your Twitch in the mid lane, but that is... interesting.
I've spent the best part of a year talking about how strong I believe mid lane Lucian to be. Now, of course, it could be mid lane Twitch, but let's be real. That's probably not going to be happening. It's going to be our first champion sighting of Taric. Not quite release rework Taric, which was very over the top, but Taric's still very strong. You hear the crowd being excited because in Korea there's the big meme that Korean caster Dongjun looks a lot like Taric. But
He sort of does. I don't entirely see it, but I sort of see it.
so the only player I've seen actually play around with mid lane Lucian in competitive, there was Dade and Pawn many moons ago on release Lucian, but in 2015, in spring season, Xiaohu, then on Gamzee, of course now famous for his performances for Royal Never Give Up, loved this mid lane Lucian. You have a lot of lane presence. Of course, he has lane presence in the 2v2 lane. Now when he gets those levels, he gets the extra levels in the culling, you can go for that same 2-item build, which suits a lot of mid lanes. Remember, mid lane usually spikes around 2 items. Youmuu's Ghostblade, Black Cleaver, and also having those extra levels, say level 11 and both those items early in the game, you will rip through team fights. So this is really interesting to see, and it's nice to see Ian go away from his original identity as kind of a safe farm laner into something that's just very different.
But playing this in the mid lane, do you think that this Lucian is still going to be built the same way that we've been seeing
Definitely.
here? It's still just going to be the Black Cleaver with Youmuu's Ghostblade as the first item?
It's just so powerful, and you want early power spikes from your mid lane if you're going to go mid lane Lucian.
My only worry is that if the Victor can, lay down enough harass, you might be forced into a Hex Drinker, which is going to delay your ultimate power spike.
We'll see how pressured he feels, not against a magic damage jungler, but really interesting to see and really interesting to track, and it's something different from MVP. Get the Black Cleaver, shred the armor. You got Twitch coming through with that spray and pray. The damage could be massive. So MVP already throwing a curveball. It's what we asked for. It's what we're getting. And what a great start to Champions, because we've had so many off-meta and new meta picks in just a couple of days' play.
I mean, especially yesterday was the biggest curveballs of all, with Rock Tigers in there.
Well, they curved so much that they just got a bit confused. They spano around.
They
a
went
bit,
right
fell
back
over,
into their starting point.
and lost. So
Yeah, it was a little bit bizarre.
just to let you guys know that the match has started with a pause, so we're probably going to wait a little bit before we get into game.
Yeah, we'll get this taken care of and get right into the action and see what is going to be happening between these two teams. Both mid laners taking exhaust, so really showing respect to each other's damage. And we've seen how much damage both of these champions with this Victor and this Lucian have been able to show. But going up against each other in the same lane is going to be certainly a very interesting matchup to see. I mean, how is early pressure going to happen here, Papa?
You kind of have to have trouble kind of conceptualizing how you look, because we haven't said Lucian versus Victor, I believe, ever in competitive play. I didn't remember casting that for Gamzee, so I don't know if it's ever really happened. If you think about it, AD carry, specifically Lucian, has great ability to push the wave. He gets the harass with the piercing light, and just as a ranged auto attacker with something like a Doran Blade start, you can auto attack the minion wave and push it faster than a Victor pre-Hex Core. Of course, when he gets his first Hex Core upgrade, you get that death ray, you get level 7. He's still able to one-shot the backline, so that's when the lane pressure starts to equalize a bit. But if Lucian ever wants to leave lane, you just pop the ultimate, push up the creeps fast, then you can roam. So lane pressure advantage, specifically early, almost certainly going to be in the advantage of Lucian. It's just after a couple of items, going to be a bit equalized, and when the piercing light can no longer one-shot the minion wave or close thereabouts, Victor will finally get a pushing advantage, probably about 20 minutes into the game.
Okay. Now, how do you, just taking a look at both of these team compositions, how do you think that they fare just on paper outside of execution? Because we do have a Taric coming in for the first time, so we haven't seen this being played around in LCK. We don't really know what to expect, but we do know the kid of this champion, double stun potential there on a fairly squishy, 2 carries there with that Lucian, with that Twitch. I feel like if they get caught, they're just going to go like that. How do you think this interaction is going to happen, though?
Well, I feel bad that we don't have the champions on the screen, but just looking over the roster, just echoing what it is. Echo in the top lane. Well, I said echoing Echo, but regardless. Echo in the top lane, we mentioned Victor and Sivir. So this, especially with one AD item on the Sivir, is a lineup that can apply a lot of pressure, and they have Rek'Sai to give them that Tremor Sense vision. So the big story, the first thing you thought of when you saw Taric's new ultimate, the invulnerability, you thought, okay, Taric dives with this guy are going to be crazy. When you have 3 lanes that can push up, that basically have instant push option, your Taric dives can be insane. So I expect to see Rek'Sai play around the duo lane, especially post level 6, and then just staying under the turret as a Twitch, especially one of the weakest 2v2 laners, will be a struggle. So I feel like pressure-wise, play around the turret, play around your strength in the jungle and your control jungle matchup, and try and just keep the Twitch honest. Because if we get to late game and Twitch can open up after all those Black Cleaver stacks are applied, the late game with Twitch Lucian and Maokai can be really explosive. Doesn't necessarily mean that MVP have a massive advantage in the late game. They kind of have to get through even or ahead to pull it off. But it's pretty tenuous, and it's exciting because there's a lot of unknown variables in this game, and whether KT can play that pressure game that they could in fits and spurts in summer or not remains to be seen again.
That it does. My main concern for MVP throwing this curveball is the same thing with Rocks Tigers yesterday. We saw Samsung, they had very heavy AoE CC chaining that they could do, and they pulled it off so well. KT have the same thing. You have parallel convergence, you have the knockup from the Rek'Sai, gravity field, on top of the Taric with a double stun potential. I just feel like if KT can get the execution, it almost doesn't matter this lineup unless they get wildly, like thousands and thousands of gold ahead early. I just feel like they're just going to crumble underneath of that if KT can pull it off.
I mean, the one thing you can say is that, if we remember the Rocks Tigers game yesterday where they had the Ezreal, Swain, Aurelion Sol, they couldn't get through the front line and struggled, right?
Yeah.
The difference here is that Twitch doesn't care about front lines. He has the pass-through damage with the ultimate that can get towards the back line. So if you open up correctly, you can actually pull off these comps in the late game and not necessarily be as affected by those big tank front lines. Randuin's Omen still has a lot of anti-synergy against the Twitch because you do slow that attack speed, but you do have options in the late game. And you don't have the Ezreal, who naturally gets all his damage blocked by a frontline tank. So there is more options available. Is it still difficult to pull off for a new challenger team re-debuting in Champions? Absolutely. But I feel like it's not quite the sustained damage and Ezreal that was always invariably going to be stopped by a frontline tank wall, like we saw yesterday.
Okay. And with, Caitlyn ban came out. Do you think that this would have been a pick that they would have gone for off the bat? I mean, because this is an interesting composition that MVP decided to piece together. Do you think that Caitlyn kind of threw a wrench in maybe their first plans and they decided, we need to shuffle this around and go for something a little bit more wacky? Or do you think that they're just, not even going to prioritize that?
It's hard to read, right? You never know if this was a pivot or if this was the plan all along. Yeah. Was this a champion that was just playing a lot in solo queues, looking over his records? He has been playing the Caitlyn. Was it a reaction to scrims? We don't have the full answer to that. I like what they've put together. It's just kind of the crux of the issue is that Maha has to lane this Twitch, and he has to find a way to get through laning phase. If they can get the lane swap off, get 2 turrets down, get some guaranteed gold, get through the first couple of levels where Twitch especially struggles, maybe you can put it together. But he struggled in the promotion. If they do see 2v2 laning play, and you've already opted in to, say, this Twitch laning matchup, I think he might struggle. So getting through that early game is certainly no guarantee for the MVP lineup.
Okay.
And that's about all we can talk about the comps, because we've still got the break here, unfortunately, guys.
Yeah, it looks like the admins are scrambling in the booth at the moment trying to fix the issue. Looks like we have an issue with ADD's computer, from what I can gather. So, might have to do a PC swap, Papa. So
PC swap.
Yeah, you never know. These guys do it quick. So it's like watching a race, like a NASCAR race or something, and then they pull into the pit stop, and all of a sudden they just take apart all the tires and shove the new ones back on and stuff.
Is that actually just one of your prepared metaphors? Or do you actually watch NASCAR races?
I don't. I actually hate
I
NASCAR
was going to make sure. I was going to make sure because you talked about a NASCAR race.
It made me think about it. Is all.
I'm sorry about that.
I mean, going in a left turn 500 times.
I like how you're motioning a circle but didn't say circle.
Well, I mean, it's one whole. Sure, a circle. Going in a circle,
an oval, probably.
Going in an oval to the left 500 times is not something that I find very interesting. But then again, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that don't find 15-minute lane swap.
That's true.
Very entertaining as well.
The viewers probably don't know, but the caster punishment, if you make a big gaffe on stream, like if you swear or something, is to have to walk around in a circle 500 times. That's actually
all the way around the studio.
Privilege. No, it's actually just in one spot, so you just end up invariably just falling over. It's quite comical for everyone watching. There's shame associated with it. It's not just the actual physical exertion.
Okay. So, I mean...
It's a big shame culture.
All right, here we are on the Rift. As said before, KT fans coming out tenfold here over that of MVP. New team, though. Need to build up. I mean, not a new team, but new into the LCK, need to build up that fan base.
I mean, if you're being fair, it's worth noting that if you remember last season's intros, they would have stars next to each organization for how many champions they've won.
Yeah.
MVP would not have one. Samsung is the direct lineage of the original MVP League of Legends squad. So, for all intents and purposes, it's definitely a famous name in Korean esports, a famous name in champions, but this is effectively a new start for MVP. So, bit of inexperience on the Rift and in the fan squad is understandable.
Some of those playoff stars were a little bit misleading.
Kongdu Monster had a
Kongdu
star,
Monster
of course.
having a playoff star.
Actually,
was
now that you mention it, this is
shocking.
the first season where there isn't a direct lineage for every August. Stun opens up.
Yeah, it's going to be Hachani and Arrow going in a little bit of invasive action.
Yeah, but just to finish that point, because Kongdu Monster inherited the Najin win because they took that spot, they're now in the Challengers circuit, so not reflected in Champions. One down, but still plenty of SKT wins to talk about, I guess.
There's no shortage on those. They have completed the circle. They have gathered all of the gems for the Infinity Gauntlet. Faker has everything. Just needs another, just why not a 3P world win?
Well, you'd be a bold man not to at least have that as heavy favorite this part of the season. We haven't seen SKT on the latest patch, but they'll get there. They always do.
Question is, how are some of the other regions going to fare, especially after we saw MSI? Meanwhile, in the bot lane, though, Chani taking a little bit of damage, but Maha's going to eat some as well from Arrow, so they just exchange blows. But, yeah, I mean, North American hopes finally coming to fruition a little bit there with CLG's second-place performance.
I mean, their sales should be swelling. CLG looked very impressive. There's a lot of optimism around there. Beyond's bot lane.
Oh, that's going to be a double flash here from Chani and Arrow. Nice pressure, just walking up, and the threat of the Cocoon enough to get both of those summoner spells down, so you can be damn sure that Beyond is going to revisit that bot lane. Meanwhile, up top, Someday taking a hell of a lot of damage. We'll get that shield from the parallel convergence, but really has to respect ADD. Does he go for the flash? No,
Still
he's just going to
3
go ahead.
seconds left on the Twisted Advance.
Yeah, knew that he would get way too close to the tower if he wanted to go for that play, so just deciding to back off. Someday will keep a summoner flash at the moment, but has to recall. We'll use that teleport to get back.
Talked about the wraparound gank. We're starting seeing it now.
Oh, yes, we are getting in onto Hachani, trying to get those stacks moving. He's taking a hell of a lot of damage. Gets locked up, and he goes down. Maha finding first blood on the Twitch. That's a pretty deadly start here for MVP.
Really like the pathing from Beyond, who have sort of started at the top side, made it down bot for the early gank, the double flash. Remember, that was already a massive thing for MVP. They're in a losing 2v2 lane matchup, even though Sivir, not known as a lane dominant champion, Twitch by far and away the weakest of the 2v2 laners. So double flash, already great, but getting the wraparound gank, even though there was a ward, it was so shallow from KT that they didn't have enough time to react, didn't have to use the flash the first time around. And now first blood over to MVP. For the Twitch especially, is a massive thing. And now with Serrated Dirk against just the Dorans,
Oh my god.
against just the Dorans from Arrow, trades are actually going to be pretty damn good for the Twitch.
That's going to be really brutal to go up against if you're Sivir. Because you can't really spell shield that much. You could get rid of the poison that he's swinging at you, but just the auto attacks alone are going to do a ton of damage. So a very nice start. That's going to be a big confidence booster here for MVP to kick things off. Because you have to be nervous coming into, well, I guess you don't have to be, but you're probably nervous coming into your first professional game in the LCK.
Pretty telegraphed roam here from bot lane. You see Elise is already ready.
They're going to go for it, trying to get onto Ian, but the Cocoon comes through, locks up Score, and he's taking a hell of a lot of damage. The exhaust comes off as well. Ian gets exhausted, so he cannot close the gap.
Beyond's
And
gone pretty deep.
Yeah, Beyond going down, but here comes Max. Achani will finish him off with the Ignite. It's going to be the flash away from Score to get him to safety. All in all, it's going to be a 1-kill pickup onto Beyond for KT. But Summoner's blown on both sides.
Strange to see Beyond go so ham. He was in great positioning. He read the situation well, knew there was going to be that gank into the mid lane. They got a nice burst of damage on Score, but they should have stopped there. Beyond already had his flash down, and he went and took minion aggro with 3 enemy champions around and promptly died. So really not clear what exactly he was reaching for, because the start of it, all very well read by him, is just the overextension is a pretty big cost when it should have been a nice little win in terms of resources for MVP.
Yeah. You can see, though, in this top side, Someday still getting bullied out by ADD. Might have to back off yet again if he loses one more trade like that. He might even lose his life. Doesn't have level 6 quite just yet.
see, Arrow struggling for CS against
Yeah, 12
MVP.
down.
When you got that advantage, it's such a big trading advantage with the serrated dirt. There's just
Yeah,
KT have to hold back.
Call longsword, so you know that Arrow is not looking to fight anytime soon. Just wants to sit back and soak up as much of this CS as he possibly can, but Maha's not going to give him an easy time of this. He's just continually pushing forward, getting those auto attacks in, and just trying to whittle him down as best as possible. It does have the heal there from the Taric, of course, to help with the sustain, but you only have so much mana, so eventually Hachani is going to run out.
So I want to see MVP play towards their item builds. They're going for, as predicted, the double Yomu's Ghostblade between mid lane and bot lane. So once those Yomus are completed, which should be, 8-10 minutes time from now, there's just no way for KT to opt into dragon fights against what is such an immense early amount of stats that you get from popping that Yomus. So MVP, with the control they have, with the snowball they have, should really be looking to fight for objectives, because there's no natural item builds from KT to answer just how clean the first buys are going to be for MVP.
So with this Lucian in the mid lane, now if other teams are going to start picking this up, what could we expect to be going up against this champion? Who do you think would be a good neutralizer of this pressure that he's able to apply with this current build?
There's nothing really that sticks out, and it's one of the reasons why I always like the pick, is there's nothing that really crushes Lucian in lane. Unless you want to actually go full counter pick and say take Caitlyn, right? You can take Caitlyn and just outrange him and get 3 autos for every trade and win in that way. But in terms of mages, you can't go for a farming mid laner. Even though Lucian doesn't have a lot of kill pressure, he has good range and he wins trades so hard that you can't go for, say, the Veigar, which often was a champion that you would pick into other matchups if you get away with just farming. So basically, he does well against control mages. He's safe and escapable enough to avoid difficult assassin matchups. So you could go all in and try a Zed, but the downside is if you fail a Zed all in or you get ganked and lose levels, you don't have a lot of ability to enter lane because you're melee. So there's a lot of headaches that Lucian mid really brings in terms of viable champion pool against it.
Very good point. I mean, with the changes to QSS, could make that a little bit more viable than it would have been before. But it's definitely still a very irksome matchup going melee into that. So, oh, this will be interesting to see how the rest of this split is going to develop. I mean, even just, the rest of this week, we still have games tomorrow. We'll get to see.
Let's not look past this series
Oh,
yet.
yeah, no, trust me. I am quite content with this series right now.
Just love that everyone's got a new bag of tricks and no one has the same one. One team's like, no, Swain is the pick. And I actually agree. I think Swain's very powerful, but Rox didn't pull it off in the 5-man unit. But now we see MVP going for the Lucian middle. We've seen every team kind of bring something new, and to some that's actually been to a detriment. To others, they've really pulled off something different. We saw Eva just blind picking Ashe and making it work. So it's going to be, the meta will settle at some point, and unfortunately we'll get very much the same picks as we've seen season after season. But right now, everyone's invigorated and everyone's tinkering, which is a fun place to be.
Yeah. That's Loken, though, with that blind pick, Ashe. That's the guy that can pull it off. That man is a monster. We can see, though, going in for the engage, they do get the stun onto both people, but Max throws up the shield just in time. They use a Glacial Fissure, a very nice spell shield from Arrow. Get rid of the knock-up. Looks like they're just going to try to get onto the Braum. Flash forward by Someday. Cannot find the damage, though. The stun not going to connect. Someday going in underneath the tower, taking a hell of a lot of damage. Going to have to use this ultimate to snap back. Now they get on the ADD, who's getting blown up, but he locks Someday up, and he takes another tower shot. It's not going to be enough to finish off the Echo, however. And KT are going to come out on top, getting that Twitch.
Nice play by KT. One issue was they both had pink wards to try and find the Twitch, but they placed them in the same spot, and the Twitch was just able to ambush away. So what they really hoped, given how well the lane ward was set up, they expected a double kill the moment they invested the teleport. You see, Someday was already pinging on that this is where he's going to go for. This should have been a double kill. Twitch is so squishy that if you can turn onto him, there's very little he can do. But just the way that MVP opened up the lane, and unfortunately the pink ward positioning, meant that even with the ability to be Someday, turret dive to your heart's content, and then reset aggro with the ultimate, they only got the 1 kill. Now, it was an even summoner spell usage in terms of teleport, so a kill for no kill is still an advantage to KT, but they will feel like it should have been more.
Yep. Gonna have to work on that pink placement communication, it seems, from the bot lane. See, Someday does have one in his inventory now. Whether or not he's going to use that top or maybe save it for another own bot, we'll have to find out. Score, though, Runs into Beyond up in this top side of the river. She's going to burrow out to safety. Doesn't want to mess with that Rift Herald quite just yet.
Squall's definitely had a happy farm time. So it's playstyle you expect on Nidalee, but not so much the Rek'Sai. Standard lanes just hasn't really had a lot of impact. Has a really large neural network, a lot of tunnels on the map, but Score is such a puzzling jungler because when he gets in the enemy's face, very much has a Peanut-esque playstyle sometimes, he can really, with his strong mechanics, come out ahead. But there are other times where, irrespective of the champion, he can be surprisingly passive, and this definitely fits into the latter camp so far.
It would seem that way. We can see those going for those boots of swiftness, so he can zip around the map even faster, maybe start making some kind of pressure plays. Bot lane certainly could use another visitation, as you can see that CS lead still stretching in favor of Arrow, up about 15 at the moment. But all things considered, given how it started off with Twitch getting that first blood, Arrow's holding on pretty decently well.
He's doing fine. I mean, Sivir at the end of the day, once you get enough AD, the moment the enemy AD carry leaves lane, you get a full minion wave. It's very hard to deny her CS for an extended amount of time, so she's doing very capably. We're very close to the double Youmuu's Ghostblade early power spike I spoke about. Already see it in the mid lane, and Twitch just looking for the combine.
Happen pretty soon. Score gets caught by the Cocoon, but is able to use the burrow just in time before that would have locked up the interaction. So
yeah, we haven't seen Rek'Sai in a while, but there was always that interaction where if you channel the tunnel first, you do complete it, regardless of its CC effect.
Yep.
Through. Here we
They're
see
just
the
going to go
dive.
for this one. Yeah, goes straight onto Maha, taking so much damage, and the Boomerang Blade will finish him off, so Arrow finds the kill, and now Max nowhere to go. The turret offering very little assistance. He is going to go down, and it is a double kill for Arrow in the bot side. Well-executed dive, and that's exactly what you were talking about with that Taric.
Illustrates the point, right? You just look at the ultimate, and it doesn't take much genius to work out exactly one of the strongest ways to play it. When you have a very reliable ganking jungler like Rek'Sai, and of course the Taric CC, which is very nicely layered in this particular fight, hit both Max and Maha on that engage. The health bars are still high because you haven't taken any damage from the turret. In the mid lane, you can see the trade's already starting to go towards Ian, as expected, with the Youmuu's build path, but nice and clean play from KT, and it plays towards the comp they picked into, and it's good to see.
Yeah. It was a fairly even trade, though, between Fly and Ian. Fly just very slightly coming out on the
You know what isn't even?
underside of
The
that.
kill distribution. Because all three have gone to Sivir in the bot lane, so
Yeah.
despite giving away the early death in bot lane from Hachani, we now see a nice little bit of gold onto the Sivir.
Yeah, it's going to be swinging back quite nicely. Speaking of Johnny, though, going to walk into this brush and find Beyond, taking a hell of a lot of damage here. Arrow does arrive, trying to fire out as best as he can. Q is not going to connect us. Johnny jumps over the wall, poison's ticking, but it's not going to be enough to finish him off.
Maha did pop the spray and pray, but only got a single tick onto Hachani. This will probably be enough to dissuade KT from fighting around the dragon. The items should do that anyway, but KT are at least going to poke around.
I don't know about this one. It's just the air Drake. Not sure if you really want to fight over this one. Score still playing really far forward. They get the stun on Hachani. Actually, don't even need the stun. They just lock him up and take him down. It's going to be the first one to fall now. Ian on the run. Score goes in, gets the pop-up. Ian looking like he's going to fall. Heal comes through, trying to kite back as best as he can. Get some damage in onto Arrow. That's going to allow for Maha to finish him off, but the Twitch is going to go down all the same. Flash away from Max just in time to dodge out the Chaos Storm. They will escape, but it's a 2 for 2, but both carries going down on the side of MVP.
Now we're starting to see some of the cracks in this particular MVP lineup when it comes to the end of this fight. So they get the pick onto Chai, that part's great, but if you notice, the tank line and the mid lane and AD carry, the double AD carries here, are on the same page. Ian goes forward, gets the heal, this part is fine, but Maha is still unable to get out. He needs tanks to be able to peel or at least cause some dissuasion, otherwise people are just going to run at the Twitch, and with the fleet of foot passive and the general movement speed abilities KT have, there's nowhere for him to go, but instead, both frontliners kind of hightail out, so either everyone needs to move away, or no one needs to reinitiate, or maybe Ian just had to go and be the sacrificial lamb for the other three, but giving away 2 kills in that scenario was definitely a communication misplay from MVP.
Yeah, not a good look here for MVP. Their rookiness, I guess you could say, is showing a little bit here as they go up against these veteran players. Score going pretty aggressive, trying to get in onto this blue buff. The rest of the team now arriving to try to back him up. He goes in, tries to get the stun. Max is going to go ahead and throw out the Glacial Fissure, but he's being taken quite low. Ian coming in on the backside, firing onto Arrow around the wall, but it doesn't even matter. He flashes away to safety and will make it out alive. ADD as well, having to flash just to get out of that blue buff pit, and all said and done, it's going to be a 2-0 here for KT to their advantage. Now trying to find Maha. Score, of course, can track him with the Tremor passive here as the Rek'Sai. So Maha really nowhere to go, just going to try to get a kill, but it's not going to come through, and that's going to make it a 3-0. KT starting to run away with this game.
But the crazy thing is, look at the scenario where they're running around. They won a fight 3-0 against double Youmuu's Ghostblade, and with their top laner having built no armor. This is a scenario where the power spike should be massive for MVP, but Maokai is late to teleport. They don't have vision in a lot of where this fight occurs. Ian comes in late, and basically the issue here is that Maha and Ian are at the opposite corners of your screen and not getting any free auto attacks off, so their items are really irrelevant. Ian spent a lot of time basically not being able to auto attack because they didn't have a ward over in the blue pit. So in general, they got nothing out of their power spike, and in a power trough, KT go 3-0, which kind of worries you as the game's going to go on.
Yeah, it's looking pretty worrisome, as you said, as we reach about a 4.1 thousand gold lead just 17 minutes in, 3-9 in kills, and MVP haven't even really been able to scratch a turret quite just yet. Do have that dragon, but again, it's the air drake that's not going to net them a whole lot as they move deeper into this game.
KT have this balanced team comp with strong wave clear. You can really push an advantage well. If you're ever out of position on the map, Sivir pops ultimate, they have instant wave clear, and they punish you with turret damage. So it's hard to execute double AD comp. MVP have made their first couple of missteps. You worry that KT, with their veteran status, are just going to iron it out from here.
Yeah. Certainly looking that way as they continue to just go ahead and pick up these global objectives, so they will claim the Rift Herald. We won't be seeing him ever again in this game, and buff goes over to Score.
I really like the duo of Taric Sivir, in team fights especially, because Sivir's famous for always fighting with her tank line. She pops the ult, she gets into close range, wants to cancel auto attacks with her W, and then you have an ability like the Taric ultimate that's so flexible. You can just pop it mid-fight to just stop some damage coming through for a couple of seconds. So it really allows you to super commit. You can all pile on top of each other even, and then fight in close quarters without having to worry about your health bars, which makes a lot of sense with a Sivir comp.
Yeah, it's also just added safety having that spell shield. We've seen that Arrow's been using it quite well, especially blocking that point-blank Glacial Fissure in the bot lane. That first tower dive was pretty good mechanical play coming out. But now the question is, what do you do if you're MVP? Like you said, the power spike, they should have been able to take advantage of that just a couple minutes ago, and they've just been losing at every single turn. What do you do if you're MVP to try to get back into this game?
One thing you've been able to claim is Dragon, so if you can set up around Dragon, you still have those nice early items. The power is still very much front-loaded in the game, both in kits and item builds, so you're still looking to fight around the next Dragon, try and monopolize an objective, because you don't really have a lot of other win conditions. 5v5 is so reliable from KT that barring a big misplay, it's going to be tough to win one of those 5v5s. And then you've got double AD, so of course, in any other scenario, you'd be like, alright, turret sieging, but your ADs are Lucian and Twitch, both of them short range. Twitch famously very poor at sieging because such an easy champion to flank and has to get into very low range, doesn't have a gap closer to be able to get away, and Lucian with good turret damage still also has to get pretty close. So it feels like fights are kind of their window, especially early, but given they've already lost a fight and the map control's trying to slip away, I don't really have a good answer for you, Achilles.
It's very unfortunate for MVP.
I mean, getting pink wards, forcing picks, getting KT to make a bad decision around the Dragon, these are ways that you can win, but I feel like the impetus is more on KT, misallocating their resources, not having appropriate respect for the enemy or ward coverage, more so than MVP being able to make a proactive play, because, I mean, a Maokai flank teleport's lovely, but you don't really have the wards to be able to pull one off.
See though, 4 members piling into this mid side, someday close by as well.
Which is going to show in bot lane.
Yeah, this could allow for a lot of pressure in onto this mid tower. Of course, Arrow going to be the primary source of damage, but have to walk straight up to that one. So KT just going to think better of it. Decide to back off. Dragon has spawned. It's going to be another Air Drake this time around. So not going to be seeing Ocean, Mountain, or Infernal quite just yet. down well below half HP to KT Stick here. Do they just back off? Looks like it might be the latter as MVP moves in. They will get the smite away, but they're straight onto ADD here for KT. They're trying to pick up some kills. ADD going low. Looks like he is going to fall. No, big heal comes through, keeping him alive as he does retreat into the back lines. MVP, however, I don't think that they can pursue this any further. Someday goes forward with the parallel convergence. It's not going to land a stun, but he does get that shield, and that's enough for him to go straight in onto Maha. The stun comes through, and they are just sweeping through MVP. 3 members go down, no one dying on the side of KT. That was a massive fight that looked like it was going to end.
They leveraged their health bars so intelligently, really placing the link on Taric to get that stun onto 3. Gonna have to watch the replay. Just to be clear, I believe it was onto Echo. It might have been Victor.
I think it was onto the Echo. Hachani, though, gonna go down beyond. Picks up that kill with the Elise, but doesn't have much of anywhere to go. Fly running around trying to get out of here. He will live in the end.
Dangerous game proc. Would have been a couple of HP outside of that, but they get the turret as well. KT piling on advantage after advantage. We'll have to really track who the link was on Taric. So the Dragon Secure was good there. Actually, Smite didn't come through from score. It was just the earlier Smite into auto attack that took it down. ADD getting that extra health from its Sap Massive packet. Sap Magic passive was massive. That was hard to say. Now wait for the stun coming through. So yeah, the link is just activated onto Someday and then sniped onto 3 members. That was crucial, and that's an interaction that we haven't seen before, but to set up the link between himself and Echo, piled on the CC, great positioning by Someday, and the re-engage, I didn't think it was possible given the health bars, but expertly put together by KT Rolls.
Yeah, that was really well communicated. You have to imagine that a lot of that came from Hachani saying, like, if you go in, we can get the stuns. You know, I can link you. We can make this happen. And they did just that. Hachani trying to live up to that bold claim of being the #1 support in the LCK. And so far, doing a pretty damn good job.
You know, he's the #1 performing Taric in the LCK so far.
He is. That he is.
He gets that. We'll wait till the end of the season before we give him any crowns, but for now, I've been impressed with KT playing around Taric. This is not necessarily a champion that's really plug and play into a lot of comps, just because he has those different mechanics, those vector mechanics almost, that other supports just really don't have.
His vector goes good with Victor?
Sure.
It's looking that way. Who is now 207 Riley's Crystal Scepter for the first item.
Yeah, it's a little bit overextended here.
Oh yeah, he has to pop that Youmu's trying to get out of there, but the stun comes through yet again, this time on to score. And look at the HP bars just vanishing before your very eyes. Ian goes down. And that is pretty much the story of the hopes here for MVP in this game so far.
And it actually lets Score on the Rek'Sai have ganking pressure with the link from Taric when his flash is down. Of course, Rek'Sai famously very flash unburrow reliant for engage, but you saw the link come through late from Hachani, in position to get the stun. They're really good at playing around this champion. And I thought it was going to be Fly debuting one of those edge meta picks. We haven't seen a Taric yet after the subtle nerfs on this patch, and so far, KT are making me a believer.
That's a very strong way to start the summer split, as KT are known for being victorious there, trying to maintain that. And this time, hopefully for their sake, get a finals win. Not just a visitation, but that's a long ways off still. We have plenty of League of Legends to happen.
I mean, if you're a player and on the first day of the season, they offer you a finals, finals appearance, you take it, right? Whether or not it's a win or not. So you can have your premonitions about KT get a finals win. I just want to see them play consistent League of Legends, because they've had 1-2 series consistency, and then they'll just randomly play Protect the Draven, or they'll randomly not have pressure in a pressure comp. So it's been all about KT keeping it together in a long season, and that's something they just haven't been able to do so far.
God. You just had to bring up the Protect the Draven. Again, I try to expel this memory from my mind, Papa Smithy, and you just drag it back in. Shake it in front of me, say, look at it!
You were asking about
this
Lucian.
happened.
You were asking about the Lucian first pick, and I was actually going to bring up the potential Draven counter pick, but
God, no.
We didn't go there when we saw the second round Twitch.
Thank you, KT, for not doing that.
And that, we talk about what can MVP do. You got a control jungle like Rek'Sai, putting down lots of deep wards. Remember, has the Sightstone, also has Tremor Sense. There's so little access to camps around the map. The pressure completely one-sided to KT, so the answer, unfortunately for them, continues to be very little, despite the fact that MVP have claimed those 2 dragons. They're not the same sort of win condition, though. It's remains to be said.
Yeah.
2 dragons against the flow in previous metas would be like, okay, outside chance of working towards 3, 4, and 5.
Maybe we need to start worrying about this, but actually Beyond needs to start worrying about his positioning here. Almost gets caught out by Johnny and Score, but this time they cannot connect the stun. So the Spider will be able to crawl back onto the web for now.
Someday just sticking in base, has some pretty good teleport ward options. Just looking for a home guard in, but for now, unable to find one. Dragon spawns in 40 seconds.
Didn't get a chance to see what it was this time around, so we'll have to take a peek at it when it does spawn. Again, Riot, please implement that on the minimap.
KT just trying to control vision. It's something the comp does so well. The team has also done very well, and with this return to the control jungle meta that's not confirmed, but very much suggested by the picks recently, KT look pretty adept at something they've always been very good.
I think it was the Ocean Drake. I couldn't really see the wall. We barely clipped
Triple
it.
Ocean?
I'm pretty sure. Well, no, he had 2 airs.
Sorry.
Now we have an Ocean. It is Ocean.
Okay, double air, then Ocean.
Yep. Oh, Someday going aggressive on the 2 members here in the jungle. Finds Max. Maha going to be able to retreat around the other side. Something's still sticking onto this Braum. Doing a hell of a lot of damage, but there's no one there to follow up. But Johnny, meanwhile, gets cocooned. Takes about half of his HP from that culling. Now ADD wants to go deep in, but Someday has other plans for Maha. Glacial Fissure comes out, but it's not enough to keep him alive. He just gets melted. Arrow finds the kill. Someday in pretty deep, gets locked up, is going to go down. That's a kill for ADD, but the Sivir has found 2 for herself. 3 members overall. I think it was actually a triple kill, now that I see it. Over to Arrow, now 11-1-5 on the Sivir, and KT are looking to put a nail in this coffin here for MVP as they are knocking on the inhibitor doors.
And it was only Someday being permanently CC'd right at the end of his health bar that stopped him from ulting and being able to live through. We're going to see some more exit kills. KT have a decent lane of minions here, so they're going to try and push forward, but given the fact they didn't get that pick onto Beyond, the game will not end just yet.
Yeah, it was also about 3 seconds on Maha and Max. So just going to show some respect. Like they said, they can win if they don't play crazy. And they are exercising some restraint here, as we can see. In KT, there's no need to go for any sort of flashier, insane plays. We can see, though, this is going to be a bit of a sneaky one coming out from
Someday
MVP, but they did get spotted.
Yeah, they saw this.
So they know that they're going for this Baron. Someday already arrived, throwing out the parallel convergence. Can't get in for the stun. That'd actually be a little bit too far forward. Has to use the ultimate immediately, but that's going to just go ahead and push MVP off.
Yeah, we see individual trades of a single life for stopping a Baron buff, and ultimate certainly is the even better trade from a KT perspective. They're going to keep chasing.
Match teleports as well, so he doesn't have to worry about getting out TP'd by ADD.
Smart of KT to back away. I like the build coming through from Fly. You mentioned that Rylai's the first item to be completed after the perfect hex score. I outlined at yesterday's game that perfect hex score is even more important as a rush, just because you want the extra movement speed on the Chaos Storm because the ticks of damage are so much higher than previously, and Rylai's of course has the synergy of keeping them slowed in that field, so it's all again about those extra ticks of the Chaos Storm really putting forward the damage as the first Ocean Drake goes over to KT.
Yep, which means that the next one that we're going to see will be the Elder
Zero
Drake.
pops.
And Hachani goes in, finds the stun on the
Very
Maha
nice.
immediately. The crits come through, and Sivir finds another one. Now 12 kills, I believe. Ian, taking a bit of damage, has to retreat back with that Yomu's. Cannot find really any damage to even fire back on KT, let alone a kill. Now they're just going to push straight up into this mid lane where this tower should be made very quick work of. There's a giant wave of super creeps building up at that bottom side. Somebody's going to have to go answer it. Meanwhile, though, ADD gonna go down. Another kill for Arrow. He is just popping off in this game.
The gulf of skill really starting to come between KT and MVP. Really scary, I think, when you see the Sivir turret coming through out of vision super fast, and the instant stun onto the Twitch really wants
Oh,
to
they're
fight.
still hungry. Someday goes straight in on that Max, and they just burn straight through him. That one goes over to Fly. Says, come on, man, you got to give me some of these kills. So picks up his third of the game. Still has not died. 3-0 and 12, and then 13-1 and 5 for Arrow. Both of the carries of this team doing absolute monstrous work, but got to give a big shout out here to Hachani. He is making all of this work.
This is basically a tutorial video for how to play Taric in competitive play. Every time they have something like a Sivir or they have someone who can fish for CC, like Score with the Rek'Sai on Burrow, you just go for the turret dive because you're not even worried whatsoever about taking damage. Usually you can't turret dive when there's high damage members and CC next to it because you're worried about someone getting CC'd up and then taking a lot of turret shots. With Taric ultimate, first couple of seconds are negated from all sources, and thus you get the kills, you get out. Echo already disregards turrets anyway, given the ultimate, but with a Taric in the back pocket, just has no cares in the world.
Yep. Step 1, big Tark. Step 2, don't give a damn.
I mean, Tarek still is not an auto-win button like he was when the rework first came through. He's still situational, but when that situation comes together, it is a thing of beauty.
This is truly magnificent here. Someday still just applying pressure in this mid side, just letting these super creeps pile up. They have mid and bot. I think KT can just, they're just going to go straight for this Baron. You don't have to worry about too much because somebody has to stick around and clear that bottom wave or they're just going to lose Nexus towers.
MVP just really missed their window. You know, they had that one-item power spike. They were slow on a teleport. They didn't have vision down, and KT got 3 kills. And from there, it's pretty much looked a lot like this.
Yeah, well, Stun's not going to connect, but it might not even matter. Beyond still running out of here, but that's going to be scored straight to the backside. And 2 more quick kills going over to Arrow, looking to make that one a third as he's chasing onto ADD and Ian. Will find it. Can he find a quadra kill? They're locking up the Lucian as best as they can. Someday going to deny any hope of a pentakill. Looking like he's just going to get double. Ian says, you know what? Just take me. I'm done. Falls and says, just get me in the next game. I'm tired of this. It's 5-25. I'm going to call it quits. And just like that, 32 minutes, KT Rolster, the monstrous victory here. 16-1-6 finished scoreline here for Arrow. They take game 1 over MVP.
Yeah, clean stuff from KT. MVP, they tried something different. I'll give them credit for that. This isn't the MVP that we saw in Challenger. They tried to play around some of their weaknesses in lineup. We're just going for something a bit different. And I actually liked some of the things they were doing. The Lucian middle as an isolated pick I liked, but they started to fall behind. Their comp couldn't really siege despite being double AD. They really wanted to team fight, but suddenly were in a bit of an item trough compared to their opponents despite having that great first item. And when those second items came in fast for KT and no advantages had really piled on for MVP, the result really didn't look like it was in doubt after those first couple of skirmishes.
Yeah. That was just a fantastic victory for these guys and a great way to kick off the summer split. Arrow mentioned in his interview, he said, what team would you like to see? And he said MVP. And now he is very much putting them in the ground.
Well, he wanted to play against his old substitute in Mark, of course. It's now Maha, the AD carrier of MVP, and so far so good from his perspective.
Very good indeed. But I mean, we're giving praise to, this Sivir and this Victor, but Hachani with the Taric, absolutely monstrous performance coming out, landing those stuns, knowing when to link and who to link, and he just played so well. Almost certainly going to see that ban in the next game.
And MVP just didn't have the formation. This is a comp that can do a lot of damage, but when your Twitch is doing less damage than Elise, you probably haven't had the right frontline or the right organization to really get the most out of the comp. It ended up being very one-sided, and we'll have to see if MVP will go back to the drawing board or try something similar, because I think we really need to see some more standard meta picks from them, because the edge of the meta looked a bit precarious.
Even then, communication issues seemingly running rampant throughout the team. That big lost fight down around the Dragon Pit. Certainly a very telling sign for the struggles that this team is going through.
Played a lot of you, my winning. It's like 25 the life Steve bust out of prison. Something's in the air, something's in the air. It's like that feeling when you're just about to kill it. Take your last shot, you know you're gonna hit it. Something's in the air, something's in the air. Whoa. Something big, I feel it happening out of my control. Pushing, pulling, and it's grabbing me. Feel it in my bones like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Something big, I feel it happening, oh, whoa. So hard that you knew you wouldn't settle. Hands are in the air, hands are in the air. When they hear you when you thought they wouldn't listen, it's like an anthem that the whole world's singing. Hands
정캐님. 예, 정캐서님. 예, 안녕하세요.
너 지금 뭐하냐? 너 왜 롤챔스 안 왔어?
제가요? 롤챔스요?
그럼 롤챔스 너 와야 되는 거 몰랐어?
몰라요. 모르는데 어떻게 가요? 모르는데 어떻게 가요?
왜 몰라? 아, 빨리 와!
이게 결혼식도 안 온 사람이 이래라 저래라. 아쉬우면 자기가 오든가.
Welcome back. Your MVP from Game 1 is, no surprise, it's Hachani. First person to bust out Tarek here at the LCK, and he did it in a big way. 1-3-22. 92% kill contribution.
We've already seen a lot of champion firsts this season, and I think I've been made a believer about the Tarek. The Swain had a bit of a misstep on the first showing. The Lucian middle this game didn't really lead to a victory, but the Tarek support and just the chaining of the Bastion onto different members at every point, setting up the dazzles that caught out a lot of the MVP members unawares, and then the ultimate, the Cosmic Radiance.
That one right there.
That was the dazzle that really made the game. Got the Bastion link. That's what caused Someday to go back into the fight, and that, of course, set up the Vector dazzle to stun up 3, and the hopes of MVP eroded basically after the early engages, and the rest of it was just kind of a Tarek showcase.
Yeah, I mean, this was, as you put it, just a guide on how to play Tarek in professional play.
Pick lots of CC, go under the enemy turret, press ultimate.
And then just
Feels
mess
good,
them
man.
up. Just,
Feels good.
yeah, I mean, this was just a gorgeous game overall from KT. Definitely playing as a unit. Great communication coming out this entire thing. And you have to, assume that Hachani was orchestrating a lot of this, saying, it's okay, you can go in, I have the link there, I have the stun available, I can keep you alive with the heal.
And isn't
we
it
can win
fun
this fight.
that we're seeing a lot of last pick support? It's happened very much with Seldenami, of course, famous in
Yeah.
the last pick support, both yesterday
Yeah, we saw
and
yesterday,
famously at the MSI final. And now we're seeing the Tarek. And isn't it fun that now that there's some variety about the support, it's not just Bard, Alistar, and Braum, but specifically the Braum and Alistar ad nauseum, that you can actually make an impactful decision last picking your support on red side and really change the identity of your comp. The Tarek rounded out what was put together by the side of KT so well, and of course Tarek doesn't have the strongest laning phase, so if you're against a lot of laning power, you don't pick the Tarek, but if you wait, you can go for those riskier picks. And the risk paid off for KT Rolston.
Yeah, it looks like that pick just completely caught MVP unawares. See those straight back in. Lucian's going to be a first ban.
You could see they really weren't ready for the creative use of the Dazzle in particular. That chain link with the Bastion, you can change targets, and then you get that second a shot of that line stun. By the end, they had to flash pretty proactively because they were just worried about the engaged potential from that Tarek provided. So it's good to see KT playing something different. MVP tried something different, KT tried something different, and KT made us a believe.
That they have.
And wow, MVP have to ban Tarek. It wouldn't have been surprising again if we started the season on 6.9, but when you just really aren't ready for a pick like that, I guess maybe banning it is the safest course of action.
I mean, pretty much any champion to see a performance like that, you probably want to take it off the board or at least pick it for yourself. So, not in a position to get a first pick by any means, MVP. Unsurprisingly, going to ban this one away. Some similar bans coming out, though. We see that the Trundle and the Rise have both been banned here by KT Rolster, and Echo is actually going to follow up as well here for MVP, so taking that out of Someday's hands.
I just want to say that you have to remember that MVP are on red side this game. Of course, you have less flexibility about your bans given the nature of first picks when you're on red side, so having to ban support Tarek on red side is actually a really heavy price. This shows you how much they respect the pick. If they were on blue, absolutely throw it out as a ban, but they've given away Kindred as a result of being forced into banning that Tarek.
Okay, yeah, we haven't seen Kindred a whole lot so far in the matches that we've gone through.
Kindred did have some changes on 6.9 and 6.10, specifically that early damage salvo when you're trading with the enemy. Of course, Kindred would hit level 3. If you found the enemy jungler and got the first auto off, they were basically dead. Now you still have the same sort of jungle clear, even though the amount of Q charges that you can get off during the W has changed because they've just retuned the numbers. But when it comes to actual damage to enemy champions, it's on the lower side because of how they've tweaked the kit of Kindred.
Yeah, we've seen her banned 5 times so far, picked just once, and that game was a loss. So KT going to look to give her a 50% win rate here today as they seek to close out for a 2-0 victory. Looking like MVP going to be playing around with the Maokai and the Elise. You know, Beyond didn't really have too many, big plays, but I guess he wasn't in much of a position to make them on the Elise. But I guess this is something that he can try to be fairly consistent on, maybe create picks. You have that follow-up CC with the Twisted Advance or even the setup to get the Cocoon. So it's a decent combo there, and just overall not showing much for the composition that MVP wants to piece together here.
It's a lot of lane pressure as well, whether it's ganking for the Maokai or more realistically, Maokai teleport flanking and Elise showing up in lane. You got targeted CC and, of course, the good CC coming through from the Elise. So, as you mentioned, it doesn't pigeonhole them into a poke comp, but it is engage options and relative safety in the first 2 picks. So, lots to like for MVP. They can go in many directions from here. Speaking of that, KT, you're not really locked into anything with the Kindred. I guess you probably want a tank in the top lane to pair with it. And is Fly going to bring it back? Probably not with Victor available.
Yeah, just going to go for the Victor. Says, I got you guys. I would love to see the Ziggs come out, though. I actually haven't really seen much, even in solo queue, I haven't seen much Ziggs since the rework.
It's an interesting change. Of course, the ult doesn't do double damage to minions, so it's less of that oppressive, just stop every side minion away from pushing style.
We're going to 70 minutes.
But you get to blow up enemy turrets with your W, which is a fun thing. Yeah, Ahri was a pick that carried MVP through those penultimate and final games of the series against Kongbu Monster. We do not see a lot of Ahri, but famously was always a pretty good lane matchup into the Victor.
Well, he did tease this. He hovered over the Ahri pick in the last draft, but decided to go for, just taking the Lucian and swapping things around.
Maokai Elise Ahri is certainly a pick comp that makes a lot of sense. I don't mind the pick if they lock it in. Right now, it's not been locked. The Caitlyn, which was banned in Game 1, is made available, and it looks like tempted to go full pick comp, but they decided to go for the Azir instead.
Okay. So not going to show us Ian's Ahri this time around, but we'll get to see his Azir and see how that plays out. But I'm interested to see Maha's Caitlyn as well. If it's enough to get a respect ban away from you, it ought to be damn good. So we'll see what he can do this time around with this champion instead of the Twitch like we saw in the last game. But now, last 2 picks coming in here for KT, looking for a top laner and a support. Right now, Johnny playing around with the idea of this Karma.
Karma support, obviously seeing more and more picks recently. The ranged supports were kind of the story of, especially the knockout stages of MSI, as some of those tank supports fell away. This is crazy. Remember, Alistar's not been banned and might fall through picks as well. Looking very likely to fall through. We saw on display from Gorilla yesterday that the ultimate nerfs have really hurt. 50 to 70% doesn't sound like a big difference, but you have to remember that's 30% extra damage that Alistar has taken.
Yeah.
So really came through and shined.
Here we go.
We see the second reach for the Swain. No surprise that it's Someday. Smeb, Someday. Cut from the same cloth. Love the top lane carries. Maokai will build Spirit Visage and sustain through. But with the Elise instead of the Rek'Sai, although Elise can build tanky, the best build for Elise usually balances damage and tankiness. It's probably not going to be the unkillable front line facing the Swain.
Now we can see, though, pass back over to MVP for the final pick. It's going to be Karma. So they said, you know what? You didn't want it. You took the part. We'll take the Karma for ourselves. So heavy poke lane there with this Caitlyn and Karma.
Very tilting lane to face against, especially for the Sivir at short range. Even with the spell shield, both the auto attack harass from the Caitlyn and Karma just waiting out the spell shield.
Can't mitigate everything.
And just trying to blow you up. So Bard does give a bit of lane pressure, but 2v2 is certainly going to be a big advantage for MVP. One of the issues they'll face going forward is they've gone again for this Caitlyn-Azir combo where Caitlyn really wants to push the enemy turrets down, come mid, set up some traps, and stick in the mid lane. And Azir famously, very much not a teleport mid laner. If you do build the teleport, it's very defensive teleports. You can't really make playmaking plays with a teleport. This game looks like it's going to be the exhaust from Ian. So you have that issue of Caitlyn's mid, where's the Azir going? Because he needs access to blue buff and safety. And outside of mid lane, Azir can't find it.
Yeah. So far, he has a couple seconds left to change this if he wants to, but it looks like Fly is just going to opt for the heal. So has that added little bit of safety in the mid side. He will, in fact, lock it in. So not going to be seeing any sort of double exhaust, no teleport Victor coming in this game. So just going to go with that summoner spell. So no exhausts on the side of KT this time around.
Chani's really on form with the Bard. Bard ultimate into the never move from Swain could be really exciting CC chaining that could come through.
Well, that's a good thing to bring up here. What do you think we're going to see as far as the level 1 goes? Because we could have, you have that big AoE root with Swain. We could have some shenanigans.
There's certainly the possibility. We already seen what Bard can do, so let's be excited and optimistic because KT don't want to go with a whimper in the early game. They need to make something happen.
Yeah, well, they're looking to make a 2-0 happen as we go into Game 2 against MVP. See what happens.
미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
KT fans definitely feeling the magic tonight here in the studio.
I'm feeling the magic of KT's Game 2 draft. I really like what they've put together. Once again, it's Sivir Victor, so wave clear is certainly not a dirty word. It's got plenty of wave clear in this comp. You've got the carry top laner for Someday, which always brings a smile to your face.
Yep.
And when we saw the Swain from Smeb, you have to, again, pair it with the lanes. It was Aurelion Sol, Swain, and the Jungle Echo. So very magic damage heavy. Lots of bit high base values, but not necessarily any sort of burst damage. This time it's Kindred jungle. So you have a damaged jungle, but one that does physical damage. They don't feel pigeonholed into just doing magic damage in the late game. They've got a lot of flexibility about their comp. But there's good lanes to gank for the Kindred. There's good scaling into late game. There's strong wave clear. It team fights well. A lot to like on the side of KT, except for perhaps the 2v2 laning matchup. So avoiding that definitely in their advantage. But looks like they're on the top side of the map. So so far so good.
Yeah, they will find the 2v1 against ADD, which is probably just going to send him packing back into the jungle to join Beyond. As they try to orchestrate that swap, we can see Someday already just going to go ahead and stick around with Score. We'll have to see how this one goes. I mean, this is, Someday, as we were talking about earlier in the broadcast, very much considered the #1 top laner in the world last year. Smeb kind of overtaking that mantle and the first one to bring out Swain. Maybe this is also, somewhat of a subtle, way of saying, I'm going to prove myself to be the best top laner. Smeb, you can step aside. Someday's back.
I mean, year on year, that's kind of been the thing, is that it was all about Someday in summer of 2015, then it was all about Smeb in spring of this year. Same choice of the Keystone Mastery. Both of them are gone for that Deathfire touch. Jungle follow for Swain is never going to be something wonderful. And of course, we saw some adjustments in how experience works, in that when it comes to the epic monsters, like for example the red buff, the sharing of experience is a little bit changed. So interesting to see how much experience Someday gets from the jungle follow. There's going to be a few camps before he gets anywhere near level 2. You can see still level 1 on the minimap.
Yeah. Warming up now, though, to get that tower and soak up that wave as he gets ready to crash in. Just 2 members here, so this should give a little bit of a tempo advantage so far for MVP, as neither jungle has joined their team at the turret. It looks like they're just going to completely avoid this as well.
Well, Score's on Kindred, so he's getting greedy for a stack. That's just the reality. But because Elise went for the Scuttlecraft, you're not going to be punished in terms of decreased tempo. 3 on both sides, so KT kind of get everything. They get the stack, a bit of snowball onto the Kindred, but more importantly, they're dodging this 2v2 laning matchup, which is something very much in their advantage.
Yeah. See though,
Arrow needs to really.
Don't know how I
okay.
Okay.
That
sure. Whatever.
You
do you, Arrow.
You get back to the base pretty fast that way.
Yeah. You don't have to channel the recall anymore. I mean, by the time you do that, you pretty much respawn.
I mean, it doesn't help your KDA, but tactical death coming through from Arrow.
Yeah, tactical death indeed, but
I mean, the hilarious thing is it really, really helps Someday, because now the lane is super frozen.
Yeah. But, oh god. Damn it. Alright, well, so that just occurred. But meanwhile, Infernal Drake, first one of the game, does go down at about the 4-minute mark for MVP. So a bit better RNG this time around. Not going to get the air. Hopefully not multiple times.
I like how we have RNG Dragons and RNG Kindred marks. We're going full Hearthstone, boys.
Yep. That, I mean, the marks are going to be that much more important come 6.11 if those PvE changes come through, because now she's going to get 5 extra damage on the Q for every mark that she has. And now they expand to Dragons, Reds, and Blue buffs. So it's going to be really important to be able to pick those up.
We'll try and reserve our judgment. Those, of course, can change very quickly, such as the public beta environment, but Kindred will continue to get adjusted. She's very much that reach for jungle. Nidalee and Kindred seem to be the A tier, and then it's all about the Sivir, sorry, not the Sivir, the Elise Rek'Sai in the next rotation.
See, though, lanes are going to go back to the 2v2 as Maha and Max did make their way back up top.
Wow,
really aggressive TPs coming in. Beyond is behind the tower. Cocoon's not going to land as Ajani flashes away from this one. Can they get out? The repel going up. Score just now coming in, and MVP going to botch this dive. Big investments coming through with that teleport.
The timing between specifically Maokai and Elise wasn't quite clear cut. You can see what they were trying to do. It took us a second to realize and register that Elise was close, but without hitting that first CC, they really get very little out of what was a big investment for them. And you see Someday at the bottom of the map, still very happily farming up. Maokai teleport down is a long cooldown, especially in a world where no longer are there distortion boots to get around such things, you know, around the 10-15 minute mark.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 summoner spells. They got 3, but not having that TP advantage is going to be pretty bad. We can see, though, Flash does go down in the mid lane as Ian tries to go in for the Shurima Shuffle. It's not going to connect, and he will be able to maintain his safety as that Victor.
Gets the summoner spell in exchange for an ult, though, so happy trade for MVP. And you have to say, though, although the teleport was blown, all flashes short of Max's are up for MVP, and now 3 down for KT.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice spot. We can see, though, gank getting orchestrated here by Score and Ajani as they try to come in here immediately slow from the 90 caliber net. They're going in, though, trying to get onto Maha. Ajani's taking a hell of a lot of damage, though, from these headshot crits coming through, but he's going to get bound to the wall, and he's going to go down. First blood going over to Score. Says, you know what, Arrow, you executed yourself. You don't deserve this one. I'm going to take it.
I really like how Score put off that fight. First, he aggressively flashed onto the support, and you saw Karma. She was always going to get away, but because she took the first salvo of damage, you know, had those mounting wolf stacks on her from the E, she was forced to back away, and that just meant that Maha was in no man's land, was going to have to take 3 people. So stopping Karma from being able to group with her AD carry, move back towards the turret, and then changing focus onto the AD carry was a veteran move and guaranteed a kill from what could definitely have been a slippery Maha and Max getting away. Because remember, Maha dies with both summoners up.
Uh-oh, look at this, though. Someday really far forward. Now tower, but the Cocoon goes really far ahead. A little bit too much lead, but Someday no ultimate available. Has to burn the flash. Here comes Ajani. Does he arrive in time? Trying to keep him alive. One more hit will do it. It's going to be the Arcane Smash finishing off here from ADB. But here comes Score roaming down from the jungle, getting onto Beyond, who has no mana, no flash. And he is going to go down. That's going to be another kill here for the Kindred. Tries to get a cheeky play, rotating out of the brush, but it's not going to happen. And now ADD getting slowed up. Looking like he might go down. No. He will be able to waddle his way out to safety, but still going to be a kill coming in onto that Elise.
The first 8 minutes, the one word that you should really take away from this is target selection. I guess 2 words, but the one term is target selection.
Just
because
mash them together.
But you can see that KT is so much cleaner at. They went for that optimistic dive MVP, didn't call out the targets, didn't have the timing, and then fell. And then you get to see the targets MVP. So Sunday's level 5, so it doesn't have the ultimate to actually top up a bit of health, almost gets out, but then dies. But they're so smart with target selection. Score always opens up on the right member. He opens up on ADD. That means that he can't group with Beyond. He kites upwards, and that means they're guaranteed 1 kill, but have the outside chance on more. And that's just something that MVP so far haven't been able to execute. The playbook has been clean from KT and very muddied for MVP.
Yep. See, though, maybe looking for another play with the Magical Journey. Not going to be able to find it this time. There was a pink brush in that River Ward there for Ian, so keep themselves safe for the time being. Actually, going in does get the stun in onto Max, and they immediately dive in. Arrow not quite there yet, as a tether going through will lock them up, and the Boomerang Blade flies straight and true. He will go down. Ajani. Arrow just couldn't catch up to him in the portal. Ajani does go down. Overall, it's a 1-for-1. Both AD carries picking up some kills.
I love how it's a very peaceful yet still equally tragic death.
That was
Poor
pretty
Bard,
great.
just
Like, no, Hachani, come back here. I'm trying to save your life.
I gotta say, if you think back, Bard has died a lot this week.
He has.
Whenever we see Bards, they're dying a lot.
He died a lot yesterday.
Oh boy.
Gorilla's Bard was something that I might not ever want to witness again.
How many phrases did we say that you just never expected to say about the Rocks Tigers?
Smeb is a liability. Gorilla's Bard sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a couple
Gorilla
things.
just dying left, right, and center. All this stuff has just been insane, but when Score gets ahead in the early game, this is what happens. He makes the aggressive play calls. We complimented KT on their target selection as, well, there's nothing Arrow could do there, sadly. But a lot of that comes from Score, and I guess we have to start calling him a confidence player, because when he has that confidence, he's amazing.
Oh.
Dragon coming down.
Yeah, Score goes in the portal. He just
See ya.
smites it away, and he's just going to hop right back over. Gets to kill somebody, though.
No mana.
No mana for ADD either, but looks like, yeah, they're just going to back off away from each other.
It's just notable that Score doesn't play like this when either his lanes or he personally gets behind against a good opponent. That's the thing, is that against SKT, very much he's an afterthought when he's really the cornerstone of a lot of their wins, which it just, you wonder what it is. Maybe it's a mentality thing, maybe it's just a confidence thing, but Score really does kind of oscillate between being clearly a top 2 jungler in Champions and being fairly anonymous in other games.
Yep. Well, so far this series, he's definitely resting himself up in that top 2 side of things.
As the Blood Razor, his triumphant return on these patches.
Yep. That was also a really good pickup, though, with the Ocean Drake, especially for Someday on this swing, because we saw he was like really running out of mana there, but if he could just back out of the fight, suddenly just keep regenerating, go straight back in and maintain all that HP with that massive amount of sustain that he has at the moment. Can't wait for that to be nerfed.
And with the supports and top laners who'd like to exit lane after they pushed, lane swap means that minion waves often get pushed too far and you have to exit lane. That's time that you can look for a roam, and either you get a roam or you, again, get those out of combat stats. So, dual benefit for KT in those scenarios.
Yep, that should be a nice Rod of Ages coming in quite soon here for some days. He's just got to combine the 2 items, and he'll have that completed. So, about 22, 23 minutes here, depending on how much gold he has on the next back. He'll have that one fully stacked up.
Max hasn't been able to get any aggressive teleport wards down, so even though KT are playing without a turret in the bot lane, they're able to play as if it's a normal laning phase. It's kind of a failure of both Beyond and Max, because they should be the ones playing around the duo lane and bot. It's Karma Caitlyn. They're going to have the 2v2 advantage. I want to see, as you can see now, Beyond coming down, get some of that deep vision, at least threaten the potential of the Maokai teleport flank. Otherwise, you're just kind of letting Score have that free hunting season on the top side of the map, get either kills, and now looking like it's going to be the Rift Herald come down, and there's just no counterplay from MVP so far.
Yeah. Just kind of been scrambling around, trying to do what little they can, and it's still just not working out for them. This will go down, so pit's going to be empty for about another 7 minutes until Baron surfaces. Score going to take the buff, and he'll have that until about the 33-minute mark or so.
Hilariously, they have no melee champions, so no one can get full value from the glimpse of the Void buff,
That's
so
true.
might as well give it to the jungler, I guess.
That's pretty true. I mean, Someday's pretty much the closest thing that they have to a melee champion right now.
Not even melee in his ultimate form, so he's not going to get that full value from the 20-minute buff. Yeah, buffs like that are just a reward of what has once again been a clean early game phase, and MVP just not having that extra step that's required at this level. It's just elementary that you must put down wards, because Sivir Bard should be punished for farming this far overextended from any safety of a turret.
Yeah. And we can see that Arrow is getting pretty well set, almost has enough to get that Essence Reaver completed. Has all of the components, so just needs one more back. And then suddenly all of those juicy crits are going to be refunding him that mana.
See Score. Scroop of the lane, he's happy to be shown in vision. It's not about... he's just trying to create some pressure on the side of the map where MVP should have exclusive pressure. Now that he's cleared a pink and put down wards, it feels like KT, despite, again, having that turret down, actually have control in the bot side of the map.
Yep. They might be looking to even add some pressure towards this turret. It looks like Maha and Max just want to get the Gromp, but now we're going to come back down and try to stop this push. But it's just hard when those waves are constantly crashing into your tower. I mean, obviously the filter of Peacemaker is there to add for some wave clear, but it's nowhere near the amount that you get from that Cinder with the ricochets.
Once KT push up, they're looking for the enemy blue. They can look for turret dives. Smite does get it confirmed for Beyond, but not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you would want that one onto Ian, but I guess it's, goes both ways with score or Beyond having it. So either way, not very ideal, but better to just go ahead and reclaim your own buff.
KT with this pressure can't do what they really want, which of course is to crash down a couple more turrets. Victor and Azir, very much a stalemate lane from years past. Once again, reinvigorated after the Victor buffs. And pushing in Caitlyn Karma. You can maybe control the lane, pushing them in completely is just not possible, given the massive amount of wave clear. Beyond's turbo coming in here.
Oh yeah, that's going to be the Flash Twist advance. It still connects on to Someday, who, does he have enough substance? Not going to be there. So he is going to fall. Nice gank coming in here from Beyond. Must have been the blue buff.
Yeah, Swiftness boost meant enough movement speed that he was able to close the distance. Even though he missed the cocoon, it didn't end up being a relevant factor. Just the Rod of Ages scaling away on Someday. So overextending and dying. This is unfortunately Someday from last season rather than necessarily Someday from summer.
But
always that late game to look forward to for Swain.
Yeah, he's got the.
Oh boy, here we go.
Got 2 stacks on that Abyss, or the Rod of Ages now. But yes, we're going to try to go in onto ADDs all by himself. We can see the roam starting to come up now from Someday. He's just going to try to get the teleport off. No way for Score to stop him or kill him in time. So he will be able to escape back to the Nexus Towers. So good identifying there that ADD could have gotten out with the TP. So good on him. But
one auto attack away in that scenario. But MP smart. They noticed that top side is where all of KT are playing, so they will get their second Drake of the game.
There's going to be an air Drake, and the question is, are they going to trade this turret? I mean, it is just a Swain and a Kindred, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to finish this one off. Bard waiting to pinch and dissuade anybody from moving in. Wave's there. They'll get some good damage in, but they're not going to be able to take this. So it will just be a Dragon going over to the side of MVP, but now they're looking for the pinches. They're moving up here. He sets up the Spiderling to try to scout. Magical Journeys up. Squirt says, you know what? Well, now I'm going to go through it. Hops into it, but someday maybe just the Sacrificial Lamb yet again comes back in. Big Empress Divine comes out, actually. And it's going to be Max going down so far. Hachani on the wrong side of the wall will get picked off. Kill goes over to Maha. Now MVP are trying to continue to push this one out, but Beyond is just going to go down. Score has used the Lambs for Spike. Cannot save Hachani's life, and now it looks like he's going to fall as well. So that is going to be a 4 for 2. Big swing going over to MVP. They lose the bot tower, but Gold's still staying really close.
Really nice shot call from MVP, because you notice the one bottleneck here for KT Rolster. Arrows in the bot lane, no way to get to this top side. And KT are playing overly aggressive on a side of the map where MVP have the inside track. They can walk through confidently their own jungle, knowing at worst it is a 5v4. And the numbers advantage is the big story, because Maha, even though he falls low at the start of the fight, pops heal, and then free autos in the back line, has a relevant AD at this point. The headshot onto Hachani does massive damage. ADD still Maokai, and comfortable teamfight win for MVP in a situation where KT were unnecessarily aggressive.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw right there the Azir changes coming in, just scooping Someday and shoving him straight back over that thick wall. And just puts him in no man's land in the thick of 3 members, and he just falls to the wayside very quickly. So can't be effective at all in the rest of that fight. Now we can see 0, 3, and 2 for the Swain. Hachani getting caught out, can't even make it to the Magical Journey. He's going to get popped, and that's just another kill coming in for MVP. Now 8 to 5, just about evening it up on Gold, only falling behind by about 100 right now.
Feels like we're having a summary of KT's spring season all through the course of a single best of 3. Now they might still go on to win this game. I really like the comp. They've built themselves a decent spot earlier that even though they've given away free kills, they're still actually very competitive in Gold, and if they take this inner turret, will be in the advantage at least for a short amount of time. So it's not panic stations for KT, but going from clean to unnecessary over just the course of a couple of minutes has unfortunately been too often the KT story.
Yeah. And I mean, they know that that is a factor. They've said, like, we'll win as long as we play smart. Don't go too crazy, and right now they're going just a little bit too crazy. So I have to reel it back in a bit, dial back to craziness, and try to collect themselves mentally and get into this game and focus up so they can close out with a 2-0. Otherwise, MVP making some really good shot calls in that last fight. And maybe looking for another one right now as Maha roams up here trying to get on the Someday. But he's not going to be able to close the distance in time, so Someday will be able to stay safe.
With the way item builds are, Someday feels pressure to go into Spirit Visit next, so it's going to be armor late. So Maha picking up that kill gold will mean that Swain will be killable.
Beyond waiting until the last second, throws out the Cocoon, but Score is there to follow up. But Johnny going low, the Lamb Supply comes down to keep him alive. He throws out the Magical Journey to keep himself up, but no, it's not going to happen. Can't go through. He does get killed by Beyond. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade so far, and the blue buff looking like it's going to go over to KT this time around.
1-for-1. ADD didn't have teleport available, but of course no way for Someday to teleport in, given that Maokai can instantly cancel in multiple different ways. So the 1-for-1 trade goes advantage KT. They swapped support for jungler. Yeah, I just wanted to finish that point. Swain will not be tanky to Caitlyn for a long time, just because he has to build the Spirit Visage against triple AP on the top side of your screen in terms of Elise, Maokai, and Azir. So just like we saw from Smeb, Caitlyn picking up that extra gold will present a problem the moment that Infinity Edge is complete.
Well, he's nearing that mark, has the BF sword. Actually, there it is. That's the completion coming out. So now, Infinity Edge with the Runan's Hurricane for Maha. It's going to be pretty damn scary.
Health and magic resist, definitely itemized by KT. Armor, still 5-10 minutes away. So this is the point where Caitlyn can do some really big work.
And that was a problem that we saw yesterday with the Rocks Tigers, not having armor and just getting shredded by that Lucian. You know, like you said, with a Youmuu's and a Black Cleaver, you're effectively hitting these people for true damage.
Not quite that build, because of course Caitlyn's still pigeonholed into the Hurricane Infinity Edge, but the same sort of flavor. Still going to see Maha do massive damage if unchecked in the back, and even the poke. Okay, not massive yet, but the auto attack's certainly going to be pretty fierce.
Yeah, you get those multiple headshots off in a team fight if no one's paying attention to you, much like we saw happen with Song Yoon 2 days ago. You just sit there and just endlessly shoot people from the back line. The team fights are not going to go very well for you, so KT going to have to steer their item purchases in that direction. Interesting choice, though. We see the Phantom Dancer coming out here for Arrow rather than the Static Shiv, so not looking for that big electrical shock to help clear out the waves.
We touched on the previous game that Civ are usually pretty aggressive when it comes to positioning in fights. This is basically something that, in a scenario where Civ finds herself next to Caitlyn, you're just going to have the attack speed and crit, but crucially you're going to have the passive that means that if you're hitting the Caitlyn, you're probably going to be able to do very well on those damage trades with the reduction in damage that Phantom Dancer provides. So just lets her be that duelist in the front line that she wants to be.
Yep. See though, Dragon getting ready to spawn. Score already waiting in the pit for this one to come up, but MVP at the moment have several members just waiting around. Score already going to take a little bit of damage, has to hop out. It's going to be another Ocean Drake coming this time, so second Ocean Drake of the game, which means that we will not be seeing Mountain. It looks like MVP are just going to stick to this one. The question is, does KT go in for it? The Spite's not going to come through this time from Score, has to flash out. TP's being channeled by both top laners. Somebody comes in, nice Bard ultimate from Pachani, catches Max and Maha. They both flash over the wall, and now Beyond, nowhere to go, has to drop in the middle of 3 members of KT, and he is going to fall, so gets the Dragon, but loses his life.
There's 2 skills there that really decided that fight. Firstly, Ian kind of wastes the Azir ultimate. They know it's down, then suddenly, Bard ult on multiple players. Everyone has to run different directions.
Oh, nice spell shield there from Arrow as ADD goes in deep. They drop the gravity field. He's going to take a lot of damage. He's actually going to fall, finished off by the Sivir. And Someday pushing forward. Still not that tanky. Taking these crits from Maha. Has to back off through the Magical Journey. That's going to be 2 kills picked up, plus a turret for KT.
Bonus things coming through for KT. Trying to keep pushing up, being very aggressive in this scenario. But the wave clear is still good from MVP.
That it is, but we're saying, you know, KT getting a little overzealous, making these wrong calls. That right there was pretty well played from these guys. Sure, didn't get the second Ocean Drake, but all things considered, they came out pretty well on top. We'll take another look at this fight in the mid.
Not going to look at the Dragon. That was just another initiation from ADD. The spell shield comes through, and then he's completely alone. Okay, you see MVP first hitting onto the Bard, then changing target to Someday. Instead, KT is just very clear. They just kill the first target. That's the Maokai in the front line, and pile on the gold as a result.
Yep, now stretching a fairly comfortable lead of about 3,000, so still nothing insurmountable if you're MVP, but it's starting to look pretty damn good for these guys. Need to pick up a couple more towers if you're MVP. Right now, only have the one from the initial lane swap, and that's going to make up an immense amount of gold for that deficit.
CKT continue to fight. Smite comes through. It's going to be Score picking up the red buff. Cloth armor means that Zhonya's is very likely to be the next finish for Ssumday, and I feel like that third item slot for Ssumday will really decide fights, because then Swain can very much disregard the enemy, walk in, buy time first with his own innate healing from the ultimate, and then the Zhonya's kind of reset aggro while still doing damage and sustaining. And there isn't really a clear answer from MVP, unless, of course, you're really on point with the Azir ultimate in a proactive fashion. So I feel like that item may decide these fights that so far have been pretty competitive between the two teams.
Yeah. And that might be the time that Ssumday actually shows up, because right now it's been a little bit lackluster. It's sort of what we saw from Smeb earlier on in that game, except that game yesterday, except it kind of stretched the entirety of that match.
Smeb was greedy. He went for Rylai's third when there was flat armor penetration being stacked on the enemy side. There's not that same armor penetration, and his third item, Zhonya's. So at least Ssumday a bit more sensible with the build.
Armor Pen's getting ready to come in, though. You can see Maha is going to start going for that Mortal Reminder.
Grievous Wounds change, and Swain being Swain means that's very, very clear that that is the
100% necessary.
correct choice between the Lord Dominic's regard.
I mean, it's also you're applying Hurricane stacks onto people that might be standing in that Lamb's Respite, denying that big burst heal that comes in at the end of it. So, a couple of things.
Elder Dragon information being popped there for the viewers to confirm. 35 minutes still a whiles away, though, so we'll talk about that when it comes to it.
Yeah, we still have a little bit of time. Question is, what's going to be our final Drake that spawns?
Another Infernal would certainly be spicy when it came to team fights. But have to wait and get confirmation. Now KT still have good pressure. Again, they have the wave clear advantage when it comes to instant wave clear, so they're able to just push up the waves. Not like the wave clear is bad on MVP side, but Sivir Victor just do it a little bit better than Azir and Caitlyn.
They have, it's just not nearly as fast.
Yeah, instantaneous versus strong but delayed wave
Two
clear.
abilities or so.
Yeah.
See, though, Baron very likely going to start becoming a point of contention. We do have this next dragon spawning now in just under 2 minutes, so maybe we'll see a fight break out there. But, you know, if you win a fight at that dragon, you still have several healthy members. It could just tie straight into a Baron right off the back end. So, next few minutes here could be very telling as far as the rest of this game goes. If MVP wins a big fight at either of these global objectives, it could be enough to just help propel them back into this match and at least pick up a couple turrets to close that gold deficit.
Well, the most reliable way is a pick.
Oh, we had ADD coming in here. Didn't have to use the teleport. Fly going to get caught by the Bard ultimate, keeping him alive. ADD now on the run. Flash forward by Hachani, finds Beyond into the wall, and he just takes a plethora of damage. Has to go up with the repel, comes down on top of a minion, and will be able to back underneath the turret safely.
You mentioned the P word, the pick. None comes through. A couple were threatened in that fight, but pick is the best way for MVP to get some pressure back on the map, because you can see KT are sticking pink wards further and further up the map towards that Baron buff area. They have very strong Baron damage and sustain with someone like the Swain available to tank it. So the threat is certainly there, and KT feel confident.
While they're walking on these wards, and Cocoon is going to go wide. Beyond can't really repel to anything outside of that pit, but Fly getting locked up, has to flash on the other side of this gravity field, and it looks like ADD might go down. He's sitting on top of the Lamb's Respite now. The heal comes through. Score flashing away. Can they finish off the kills? It's going to be Maha finding Fly so far, but they do fire back and get ADD. Now the fight just scrambling. Something trying to get out of here, but he just cannot do it. The execution damage comes through from Beyond, and they finish him off. Score barely living from that headshot. And he is going to be able to walk away. The Caitlyn ultimate, rather. And all in all, it's going to be a 3 for 2. KT barely scraping out ahead of this one, but they're going to lose a tower in the mid.
The big story about this fight is it should have been a big win given the item timings, but Arrow is not able to auto-attack for so much of the fight. This is not Sivir playing with a tank. This was Sivir completely separated. So you'll see Maha pushing big crits, 718 as you saw, getting auto-attacks in, and Arrow spends a lot of the fight just rotating. It could have been one-sided if Arrow was in a different position, but it ended up being a lot closer than expected, just again, because of positioning on that AD carry and just off-screen. There was also the mid-lane turret taken by Caitlyn, despite the fact that it was the 2v3 by the end of the fight.
Yep, and it's going to be another Ocean Drake.
Yay, the Ocean Drake.
Third of the game. Arrow, whoa, my god, Arrow taking a lot of damage to the backside of the pin. He's going to go down. Maha finds the kill. KT just getting way too aggressive. They will find the confirmation on the Dragon, but they lose the 80 carry for it.
Maha made actually a little micro mistake there. He attack moved into the Dragon Pit and crit the Dragon for 700 to bring it to smite range. That's not what he wanted to do. He wanted to crit Kindred in the face, of course.
I mean, I'd still feel pretty good about getting a kill onto the 80 carry, because
I
now
would,
it's
I
going to
would
go
not
ahead.
feel so good about trying this Baron against Bard, but Bard ultimate's down, so maybe it's all right.
Yeah, they don't. It's not going to be up for quite some time. Baron already down to about half HP. Somebody going to have to make some kind of big play as he gets ready to walk forward. Beyond goes out with the repel. The Dragon or the Baron going quite low. And Score getting in range. He's trying to. The Lambs of Spite not going to go off in time. He goes down. Beyond should be able to confirm this one. He actually ties. The Baron helping him out. And Sunday still very healthy. Can they get the Baron? It's going to be taken away by Maha. So far a 3-for-1 though. Can KT just remove the buffs? They're going to remove all of them except for that of the Caitlyn's. A bit of a disaster scenario, but KT still kind of making the best of it.
So Fly won them the fight. You might wonder how. You're going to have to see a replay to confirm it, but watch Maha. He's hitting over the wall. He's the one that was just critting people in the face for 1 million damage. Maha looks for auto attacks. Still hasn't gotten any. The Rylai's ult comes out, and Maha does nothing the entirety of this fight. Baron buff hitting the MVP front line, and their 80 carry with all the gold, happy footing in the corner. And that's the only reason that KT were able to come out so comfortably. Okay, he manages to pilt over Peacemaker, the Baron to spare a couple of blushes, but that was KT playing around terrain and Fly being smart enough to know, if I just put down this ult with how the ult has changed, you cannot just ignore it and walk through it like you used to be able to. In the past, you had to hit the initial damage to get really any burst out of the ability. Now it's just enough to be used as a zoning tool. And that fight was decided by Maha being zoned out completely.
Yeah, really great zoning. Just pushing him back. But still, gets the Baron. But 4 other members are currently lacking it on the side of MVP, and that does swing the kill count back in favor here of KT. But the gold pretty much going to remain stagnant. Still 3,000 separating these guys. And MVP in the last 10 minutes or so has only been able to pick up that one turret in the mid lane.
We'll have to talk again about item completion. Zhonya's completed for Someday. We called that as the key item, but worth noting that Maha is the person on his team with extra gold. He's actually ahead of his opposite number, Sivir, in both CS and about 1,000 gold up after all the kill involvements. 4 item Caitlyn. She gets those auto attacks away because, ADD, very tanky. Beyond, he did not go for any semblance of damage. It was literally the Runeglaive into straight rush into the Randuin's Omen. So the front line is strong and Caitlyn is very powerful. If we see another scenario where Arrow for some reason is unable to get auto attacks off, MVP could definitely come out ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that fight, nearly proved it. If Maha had been able to stick in and keep firing off those shots, he certainly would have been able to sweep the floor with the remaining members of KT, but Fly saw to it that that did not happen, but if he can't do it again, if Maha can position better, it could be an entirely different story, and we could even see a Game 3 tonight.
ADD has gone for an item that really tells you what MVP are looking to do. A lot of Maokai's have been going for Iceborne Gauntlet as their build in the early game, but we do see the Frozen Heart being completed, so it's more of a team fight item. Now you don't have the Iceborne Gauntlet procs to actually do any semblance of split pushing. Maokai never a great split pusher, but a little bit of extra damage from Iceborne Gauntlet was very relevant. Doesn't trade well with the Frozen Heart, doesn't split push with the Frozen Heart, but does team fight very well.
Yeah.
So that's what they're really looking to do. The longer the split pushing phase is on, Someday will get small advantages, but nothing concrete that you can really barrel down. But MVP, they're ready to fight, I think. And if they pull off the right fight where Maha free autos, they can definitely take one down.
Both top laners have TP available, and everybody bunched up around this top lane turret. Maha should just be able to force his way in. The gravity field comes down, but it doesn't matter. He's got the range, has that rapid fire cannon as well, so finishes it off. Not going to find any kind of explosive fight happening, though. But a little bit more gold taken off of the dog here for MVP.
Oh, Ian almost face checks Achani.
Oh, yeah. Gets sped up, though, and he will be able to make it out. Does not get hit by the Cosmic Binding.
See KT rotate. Have to really lick their wounds a little bit, but we're able to come up ahead in the Baron exchange. Didn't get the buff, but everything else pressure-wise really worked for them, especially when it wasn't an ideal scenario. I guess we're starting to see a window into why KT felt threatened enough to ban the Caitlyn in the first game. MVP do seem to understand how to play these Caitlyn comps a lot better than the new style they tried with the double AD, the Lucian Twitch in game 1.
Yeah, we just ignore that. I don't think that didn't happen.
Give that one a mulligan.
That was a bad dream.
Get him a do-over.
QSS, though, for both of these 80 carries coming out, so we'll be seeing that as the final item for Maha. Arrow just a little bit further behind, still has those 2 slots to fill, so the Mercurial Scimitar are going to be one of them. We'll see where he wants to go from there. He's got a couple different options.
Swain has this large rod in the item build, so I guess Death Cap, which would be a bit more sustained for the ult, of course damage on his abilities. Not feeling pressured enough to build a Void Staff despite all the AP stacking on the side of MVP. So all the magic resist stacking on the side of MVP.
Yeah. Maybe a last item Void Staff? I don't know. That wouldn't be too good.
Rylai's, I guess, given the Ruby Crystal, is what he's looking for a bit more control. Again, not a bad item. It was actually always a Swain item, even back in the day after Rod of Ages.
It just glues everybody to you. I mean, that on top of the one that Fly has, you're just constantly slowing everybody with the AoE that they're able to output. But they need to be able to get it onto Maha and have everybody else jump on top of him as well. Can't do that. Damage is going to be insurmountable.
Elder Drake value definitely lopsided towards MVP when it comes to the buffs they're going to get.
Think about all that out of combat sustain for KT.
Oh, sad days.
I think they're going to get like 12% or something.
Now, of course, the Elder Drake does scale on the amount of dragons, so still having 2 means you're going to get some benefit, but having 3 and also getting the benefit on Infernal and Air is happy times from MVP, but you have to find a scenario to actually rush down that Elder Drake.
Which isn't a very easy thing to do.
No, I mean 12,700 health, as you can see.
He's pretty stacked.
Not even willing to start it just yet.
Yeah, Raid Boss Elder Drake.
Look at Vision, because that's kind of going to give us the go buttons. It feels like MVP, once again, they don't have anything behind the back of the pit. Whenever we see teams play around an objective in Champions, it's all about the wards behind the pit to allow a home guard teleport, or even just the ability to control space for the Maokai. Because Maokai's running into your face from the front, very easy to play around. But when he's coming from behind, you have to really think, okay, who's the target he's going to go onto? Which way do we kite? A lot more decisions to be made. So this is, again, something that's kind of falling apart. It's not like KT have invested multiple pink wards behind this Elder Drake. They actually have pretty aggressive pink wards. There's nothing really behind the Drake. So there is spots there to get those deep teleport wards, and they just haven't really been pressured enough in that part of the map to actually put them down.
Yeah.
Whereas you can see the cheeky ward as Maokai's passing is a really nice spot for Swain to come in if it's a home guard teleport.
Yeah, that could be a very good one. Also adds one in the middle of the mid lane here, just above the river, so with those home guards could very quickly join his teammates. So a lot of different options available to him, but Baron has since respawned here now. We can see MVP going to start prioritizing some vision on this side of the river as well as they take down the Scuttle Crab and get some wards placed into the jungle.
A lot of fans have been asking about the trade between the Elder Drake and the Baron. Which one do I take? And it's situational.
Comes down to the buffs, really.
Cloud Templar, the Korean caster, was talking about it yesterday, and he was definitely tipping the hat to Baron. I think in general that's correct.
Oh,
wow, actually.
That was really respectful.
Respect Flash.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, but I guess they had Sivir and Swain on the bot side of the map, and they didn't know what was coming. I feel like in this game, very clearly KT desperately want the Baron.
They do. They want it so badly that some days, like, I'll just solo it, guys.
Well, they want the Baron just because Elder Drake for them doesn't mean much.
They want the Elder Drake, rather.
They desperately want the Baron because the Baron buff gives them a lot more than what the improved stats from the Elder Drake will give. MVP happy for either. They will not trade Elder Drake for Baron because they don't have, say, 5 stacks of it. If they had 5 stacks or 4 stacks of Dragon, then definitely an argument to go for Elder Drake. Vision's dropped after Bard had to flash away. Bard can't get close enough, and this Baron's been rushed down.
Oh, the Bard ultimate not going to connect, just a frame too late. It does get finished out here by MVP.
Nice play call. They blew the flash on Bard. They knew he had to recall. They cleared Vision. They took Baron. It follows. It's smart. It's the sort of play KT played with in Game 1. Great to see from MVP.
Yeah, very good indeed. And Someday just wasn't even able to try to teleport in there. ADD was just chasing him up into the river, saying, like, if you start channeling, I'm just going to interrupt it, and then I'm gone.
That's what happens when you're cheeky. You try and do a bit of damage to an Elder Drake that's not even a massive win condition. You have all your wards around the Elder Drake, and they had all their eggs around it. And then they just switched objective. They got the Baron very happily.
Yep.
Now you can opt into a fight with those extra stats around the Elder Drake, and just the on-the-fly problem solving that is the hallmark of top-level League of Legends. Good job, MVP.
Very good job indeed. You can see, though, KT maybe
gonna
getting a
face
catch
check.
on a Beyond. Score, though, he's just paying attention to the Scuttle Crab, and now the Magical Journey comes down. They have to zip their way out of this one. Score down to about half HP. That can instill enough confidence here.
Swain has
into
that nice
MVP.
teleport pink ward. It's worth noting on the bot side of this Elder Drake.
He does have that one. It's going to be started up here by MVP, feeling confident enough to go for this. Wards in the pit from both sides as they try to go for the play. Looks like MVP just going to play it safe and back off. Actually, no, go on to Someday, who's taking a hell of a lot of damage from the Caitlyn. Has to pop the Zhonya's here. Does so, but I don't know if he's going to regenerate enough HP in time, and he does not. Maha finds the kill. Score going to go down as well. Can't even use the Lamb's Respite, and now it's Fly and Arrow on the other side, tanking up this Elder Drake, which is almost certainly going to go over to MVP. And with this take, with the Baron, after the resets, they're going to find themselves the very firm lead in this game.
There's so many different stacking buffs. Only a couple of minute duration on the Elder Drake, so you have to use it. You don't really want to shop after you pick it up. I guess with the Baron recall, you have a bit more room, but this is the much smarter way to approach it. And Someday went for that teleport play, but you can see that KT are slow to react. They feel like they can't go in. Only now do we see a little bit of damage from Fly on the other side, but the threats were not grouped. Both members that were on the bottom side are taken down. Very smart of MVP to instantly disengage from the Elder Dragon and take down Pixie. You can see picture in picture. They're
Look
going
at
to try
this.
and use his buffs to end the game.
Yeah, and they very well can. As much damage as they have, they're going straight in onto the first Nexus Tower. Triple Baron-empowered cannons there. Big damage comes out from the Chaos Storm, however, trying to find a kill. Not going to find anybody, but this could be the re-engage. A score goes in onto
Wait for
Maha.
the Bard
Has
ultimate.
to flash away. Can they find the catch? Bard ultimate not thrown out quite just yet. Score still on the hunt. He's not going to be able to find it. The Bard ultimate not going to connect, so Maha makes it out with his life. So MVP successfully find an inhibitor and the Nexus Tower, and they all get out alive.
Yeah, now we see the Mantra E coming up for Karma, so able to just speed everyone away as if they had their own Sivir. Pick up the buff on the outside. MVP really impressed with how smartly they've played. Looked like it was going to be a tricky game for them. We saw Caitlyn really struggling and floundering around one Baron, but crucially they confirmed that Baron, and since then they've just played teamfights smarter.
Oh, another TP comes in here from ADD, going to try to pinch off on Score, who is just taking an enemy red buff way too far forward. Lamb's Respite comes down, but to no avail. He's just going to die. Score, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, red buff's stronger in the late game, but dying in the late game post 40 minutes still has a super punishing death timer. They did not have the pressure on the map to justify it, and it's just a gaff. There's no other way to put it.
I mean, maybe if they didn't have Baron, but they had Baron-empowered recalls at that point in time. They're going to get back to base. They're going to be able to find you. It was just way too aggressive and just honestly...
But there's scenarios where that's not a problem, right? If Bard is next to you and you can just magical journey over.
But by yourself, in this scenario, is a very unintelligent play.
It was an ambition solo mission.
And then he assumed the position.
I mean, the ambition position's looking pretty good after that win over Rox Tigers.
Yeah, yes it is. But now we can see second inhibitor going to fall. Big wave getting ready to crash, and KT just can't do a damn thing.
Well, they're probably going to ban the Caitlyn again.
Yeah.
Caitlyn, whether it's the spiritual reason, I mean, they've played very smartly around it, but it's been more than just the Caitlyn. It's been smarter play by MVP. They've really adapted their team play, crucially, in fights, and it feels like KT have been showing up late to things. They're looking for optimistic engages, which have been punished, and decisive shot calling is really the adaptation that MVP have really done this game, and it's paid off in spades.
They completely flip-flopped from how they were in the last game. KT was the ones making the great shot calls, and MVP was just flopping around on the map, and now it's just completely changed hands. KT just seeming like they don't know what to do. And pretty much about to give up a game to the very rookie team of MVP.
But it's exciting to see because...
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for the upset.
MVP could very much have been the next Kongdu Monster. You know, the also ran that team that picks up a game win maybe one series win, but nothing more. They're showing that they do have tricks to their strings to their bow. They really do have different ways to play the game. They tried something crazy in game 1, it didn't work. They go for something a lot more measured, and okay, we talked about the fact how they're going to make this Azir and Caitlyn work. They rotated their resources. They've still kept up CS advantages for both mid lane and bottom lane, or at very worse, even CS. They've navigated some tricky macro headaches, and they've navigated them well.
That they have. I mean, I think, you and I have been fairly outspoken about our opinions on MVP before this match, thinking that, they're probably going to be one of those bottom teams here in LCK. I'd love to be proven wrong by these guys, and they're making a pretty big statement for themselves if they're able to close out this game.
Opinions and expectations can only be made based on information you have. You look at the available data points and like, well, these players don't inspire too much confidence.
Yep.
There's not that much hype around them. The playoff performance wasn't great, KT or KT. You put the math together and you say 2-0 KT, but then you see things like this and it inspires you for future series. And now our data points will include a game where for at least 45 minutes, MVP have played to a game plan almost exclusively and done it clean.
Well, hopefully they can maintain this level of play, not only to just close out this game and potentially set, but to continue on for their next matches coming up. If they play like this, they can find some wins. Double Bard ultimate connects onto Beyond and Maha. EDD going to get slowed up, taking a hell of a lot of damage. Still has the Guardian Angels available, though, and Maha is a very healthy Caitlyn at the moment. So it looks like he's just going to be able to be quite safe. And Arrow is completely relegated down towards this Nexus, clearing out these double super creep waves that are just continuously pouring into the base.
The reason you didn't see a true engage from KT is that Someday was the one trying to hold the minions, got low and actually had to back, so they had to send Sivir away, so half-hearted engage. This could be the turret take, though. Seeing a lot of damage
like it
come
might
down.
be. Beyond's going to get locked up here, though. Takes a hell of a lot of damage. The Repel comes through. He might be able to make it out alive. Last hit comes through. He will go down. Fly finds the kill. EDD goes back in. The Lambs are spiked down now, keeping score alive for the time being, but he still gets taken quite low. The heal popped to about 50%. He's able to back off. You can see that is the inhibitor respawning in the bottom side. Super Creep's about to knock that one down, so somebody has to answer this. And the pings are coming out from MVP. They're just going to turn straight toward this Baron.
Well, still a really big win for KT. They played it smartly. They got the double Bard stun onto the 2 damage dealers, so didn't pay any cost. But you can see the culmination of having 2 inhibitors down means you pretty confidently take Baron.
Oh.
Teleport has to be cancelled because they get the news, and they're like, well, we wanted to contest, but there's no way to do so.
Yeah, I thought he finished it for a second. It was like the last second that he could have channeled it, but we'll take another look at this.
This definitely couldn't have done better. The first Cosmic Binding gets the damage onto Beyond. He will eventually die, even through a Mikhail's Crucible, you'll notice, when the damage finally registers. But the Cosmic Binding that comes in just a couple of seconds onto Maha and Ian, I mean, they do no damage, so they win the HP trade here after the first kill. They're in a great position, but you can only get so much when you've kind of been dictated to for the last 15-20 minutes, and still an exit Baron is an easy objective for MVP to pick up.
Yeah. Worth noting, though, Someday did lose his Guardian Angel in that exchange. Final headshot did come through from Maha, so he got that crucial item cooldown popped. ADD holding on to his still, was able to make it out without having to resurrect. So still going to be another minor victory here for MVP.
KT, they pushed up their top lane, they didn't lose the turret, and now they're actually able to contest this bot lane inhibitor. In any other scenario, they would have had to 100% give it up. Now they have different options, but Victor in base means they kind of have to back away.
Oh my god, and the damage onto Arrow like that means they have to just go ahead and back off. And the mid one respawns, and it goes straight back down. So double inhibitor pressure is still going to be there for KT, and this is just looking grimmer and grimmer as the minutes roll by.
KT only seem to have bought a couple of minutes delay on what looks to be an inevitable first win in Champions for this iteration of MVP. They're going to have to come back and once again try to push up this minion wave. They got the turret very low, but weren't able to finally tip it over because of the
like 4 shots from Caitlyn and it's gone.
Because of the increased dragon time spawner when it comes to the Elder Dragon. It is the 10-minute spawn time, so still 2 minutes away. So for now, no possible punishment for KT. Everyone playing on the top side of the map.
And we'll see if they're able to find themselves a third inhibitor, and I feel like if they do, the game's probably going to follow shortly thereafter. Unless KT gets a miracle ace off this play, but ADD, a very tanky Maokai, has that Guardian Angel, so they're just going to push in. While the hunt gets popped, and they're just kiting backward. Hachani on the sidelines. Does he go down? Gets caught. ADD goes in, finds the kill as Maha finishes him off over the wall. ADD looking like he might get that GA pop, and he does. He will have to come back up a fly. Going to have to back off to the Fountain. Arrow as well, chunked down to about half HP. And this should be enough for MVP to go ahead and push in and finish off this inhibitor. See how much more they can take. The Wave's not yet into the base, but the mid lane pretty damn close.
They're going to have 3 inhibitors down, though, so it's again more of a waiting game. I feel like MVP really didn't need to push that final inhibitor. There's such good wave clear that KT have options to answer it, but again, accumulation of pressure. You could have found a more proactive way to end the game. It's going to happen one way or the other.
Oh, yep, Score going to have to flash away from the Cocoon, but the damage still comes through, and he's taking a hell of a lot of it. Someday trying to go on the run.
Lamb's
It's on the Lamb's Respite does keep him alive, but the Nexus is now exposed, and Maha is still, actually goes down. Big crits come through from Arrow. They finish him off. They're going to try to keep him alive.
hold this?
But this Nexus, it actually lives! They wipe out MVP! And KT Rolster are going to keep the game going as we reach the 50-minute mark.
Crazy stuff. How important was that Lamb's Respite from Score? I thought Swain was just going to give his life away. It doesn't happen. We're 50 minutes into the game. The death timers are no shorter than they were the last time we saw. Now, do they actually have the ability to push the team? The answer is no. You can see with super minions and such a low Nexus, not 5-man can they commit to mid lane. So there's no way to end this game despite the death timers, but they can still do their best to at least force down an inhibitor.
They're going to try. We can see Score catching the wave here as just the tier 2 in mid falls. KT trying to work through this. The wave now arriving. They should be able to get this inhibitor. It's still going to be 25 seconds on Beyond, 15 on Maha and Max. So they will get an inhibitor. It's going to be a slight reprieve.
Oh boy!
But actually, they're going to go for it. They say it's do or die time. Someday coming in. Here comes Maha in just 5 seconds. The first Nexus turret going down.
This
the
would be
second
such
one
a comeback.
Getting burned very quickly. Here comes Maha. Let's see what he can do. It looks like they can't do anything. KT Rolster with a miraculous save at their Nexus. Come back and finish the game.
Just insane stuff. We often see veteran squads come up with superior shot calling, but that ability from Score, putting down the Lamb's Respite, keeping the Swain alive, looking at the health bars and realizing, wait, we have a chance to do this. They do it, they get the ace, the death timers are still long enough in the late game, and crazily, MVP come away from this series with absolutely nothing.
My
KT
God.
fans are just over the moon, and MVP, not the introduction they were looking for. They played so well for 48 minutes. We could point to one mistake. Maha's happy footing around Baron, and no others in 48 minutes. And then just in a couple of minutes, right at the tail end of their first Champions Series, they just didn't focus down that Nexus fast enough.
I mean, neither you can see right now the frustration from Ian on your screen. But honestly, I mean, KT, it's got to be a breath of relief after that match. But I don't think either of these teams can,
I mean, KT doesn't look stoked.
Yeah, I was going to say, neither of these teams can walk away and feel complete about that victory or about that loss. MVP, unable to clinch out the match, and KT barely inching out ahead. They played so poorly throughout the majority of that second game, but right when it mattered, the Lamb's Respite from Score just saving their asses.
Look at this damage to champions. Of course it was Caitlyn way at the start, but
Who else? Who else would it be?
Sivir and Victor did their job, and you know, we'll point to the last fight. I mean, it's very difficult to talk about shot calling in such a crazy scenario, but let's return to something I was speaking about, specifically pushing that top lane turret against Sivir Victor. They kept returning to it, even though the minion wave was so far away and they had 2 inhibitors down. They still took the foot off and said, no, we need the tutorial victory. We need to push and win this way. They had Maokai. They had lots of burst and pick damage. They could have gone for something different. They went for the tutorial victory, and that extra time for respawns to come through, that extra time to get all your ducks in a row, gave KT a fight to take. And I didn't think there was going to be one. There ended up being one, and MVP so slightly, ever so slightly, come up the losers.
That was one of the closest games that I have ever had the pleasure to cast. What Catastrophic finish for MVP.
If we've learned anything from competitive League of Legends, especially in the last year, you can make some mistakes in the mid game, especially now with the death timers kind of pushed back and a little bit more forgiving. But in the late game, you can never make a mistake, and unfortunately, MVP made the titanic mistake, and the death timers were long enough to punish them and put them to the sword.
Yeah, big catch there by Arrow as well, just critting the hell out of
It's not often
face.
you come out from a 2-0 series and there's 10 members of both teams who don't feel great about it.
Yeah, not at all. But these guys have to be relieved. They played extremely well in Game 1. Just need to sort of replicate that every time moving forward if they want to have their fabled success here in the summer split.
Summer split, always been a happy time for KT Rolster fans, but fits and spurts of this series, pretty good. Plenty to examine, but the MVP is going to be Hachani.
Yet again.
Once again.
So, I don't know how I feel about it in this game. I feel like he had some very crucial Bard ultimates. The one that you pointed out at that push onto the inhibitor tower in the top lane, catching Maha and Max. Very crucial.
That was the Cosmic Binding, actually.
Or the Cosmic Binding, yeah, that's what I meant. So, yeah, Cosmic Binding, they're getting that catch, stopping the push.
But the best part of the replay is we're going to see a replay of the final fight. And there was so much happening. We were, of course, focusing on the Nexus health bar that some of these interactions are probably going to be unbeknownst to us. So we're going to see a replay and see if perhaps Bard was able to do some massive work there. But Hachani, he had the big talk. He said, I'm the best support. And now he has 200 MVP points. He's the early leader in that stat.
Yeah, it's going to kick it off with a bang here.
KT, well, they were still doing smart things in the early game. The target selection we spoke about, starting with Max turning on to Maha. That was some nice play from Score. Score got massively ahead.
Yeah, I mean, these Cosmic Bindings early on were just absolutely gorgeous and led to that early lead for KT, and then they just started on that downward spiral, happen very quickly in the mid game. But
this was the fight where Arrow was really caught and unable to put out many auto attacks.
Yeah.
So this is where KT finally fell down. Maha got the bonus gold, finished the Infinity Edge, and got really powerful from this fight onwards. He was definitely the MVP, hopefully for MVP. As we're going to see, this is the fight where, of course, the Rylai's from Fly really changed the fight. We're just seeing Hachani and the rest of the team fight in the mid lane around it. Maha able to do nothing. KT bought time delaying the game, even if they weren't able to claim the Baron at this juncture. But the rest of the game was played at MVP's turn. They basically dictated everything from 25 minutes onwards. Such was their control over the game. Sadly, we don't see a replay of the fight this time, but we are going to get an interview, and it's going to be, of course, with our solo MVP recipient.
Yep, so we're going to throw it over to Steven for our translations tonight. Steven, how about you go ahead and take this away? Let us know what Hachani's thoughts are on that very crazy set.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for a great comment for today again. It was amazing game happened by a KT Rolster. And now we're moving into the interview booth with Hachani. And please, Hachani, tell us, first of all, congratulations for your today's match. How did you feel about today's game? Let's be a big applause. So congratulations. Tell us, how do you feel about today's game? Second game was pretty hard, and I think we won because it was a summer season today. From beginning, you are very focused. There was a dungeon where appeared in the game for today's match. So how you think about dungeon and Taric compared to it? And I think they're really similar. Taric's really handsome and very stylish. I saw a Dungeon's body and really similar with Taric. I'm really thankful.
Hachani thinking about Dongjin's body.
So we're thinking about that the Taric can be very useful in the tournament in summer season. And why did you pick Taric for this match for today? First of all, they picked Braum in the other team MVP, and that's the reason why I picked Taric for counter back attack. So they had a mid lane for Lucian. It's the first appearance in this season. So how do you feel after they picked the Lucian for this season, this match? I think the first game they lost because of this Lucian. First of all, they're supposed to be bottom lane should be strong for the other team because his Lucian is mid lane. but we did great job on the bottom lane. That's why the MVP was the reason they lost the first match. I was wondering about why Alistar should not pick for the summer season. Alistar died too easily. Even we are practicing game in the scrim. That's why it's hard for us to use Alistar in the summer season. Many professional players say it's hard to use Taric, but today you have shown amazing usage of Taric. So, there's any little single tip for you to use Taric? First of all, you use a dazzling for the tanker to use that skill in the middle of the game. And when you use the cosmetic radiance, you use after the team fight in 2.5 seconds. And that tip will be very useful to use Taric in the middle of the game. So you use 2.5 seconds earlier or late on the team fight. So what's your method of using Taric so well for today's match? Oh well, it's not my secret weapon, but I used to use Alistar most of the time, but it wasn't that good while I was playing Scream. That's why I used Taric to counterattack Brown for the team MVP for today's match. So after when the OnGameNet ready for the review video, we're gonna talk about Taric later. There's a video right now. This was amazing dazzling from Hachani for KT Roaster. Is this a call made by Someday? Oh, without talking about this call, we just instantly know that how to use the skill of dazzling in the team fight. I think the usage of Taric is need a basic knowledge between the players that play with you, right? Yeah, it's pretty much you need that for Taric to play. I think other team were very shocked after you used Taric and other supporter. Our team balance for today was very good. Even we go farther to the halftime, and we were very scared. Even we got a 3. Our base were blowing it up, but we were being keep patient and talking with each other to fight against with other team. There was a mistake by Severe which died by creeps today. And what do you think about that? Severe died because we have used it in the Scream that either you go back to the home with the going back or just die by creeps. It's same thing. So that's why Severe just decided to die by creeps in that time. So next time when other professional play, maybe they just die to creeps. It was useful information that you guys have shown in today's game. Last game, yesterday game by Rox Tiger vs Samsung, Snap shown a very not good usage of Swain. But what do you think about Swain overall game? Well, we used Swain to balance out the game for overall. So I think it did a pretty much great job on today's match. So can you tell information about Maha using a usage of Caitlyn? It was pretty much damn hi-fi. It is very hard for us to fight against Caitlyn because Caitlyn, we're using his skill very well, and also the range of attacking is pretty much very long, so it's kind of for us to counterattack him, but we pretty much did very well. Which is the player in KT Roaster was the main part of showing the twisted ending for today's match, the second match. I think Score and the Severe, the Arrow was pretty much the two main characters who show us the twisted ending for the second match for today's game. Arrow has been always good for the whole match. So I guess Arrow and Score shown a tremendous job in the second minute. That's why we won the game for today's match. So sometimes for these days, the supporter using using different style of items, and the change of supporter style compared to the last season, they have improved really a lot. So what do you think about new supporter style? So these days the game time are more longer than compared to the last season, and that's why it's more important for supporter to be good in the match. Normally junglers are taking a more important role than supporter, right? Yes, I totally agree with that, but I think I did a great job on today's match. Are there any more clips for today's game? We were very wondering about any call sign for the last minute, but because it was very twisty ending, that it was barely KT Roster got it. But there's a clip right now. In this scene, it's very disaster, and we don't know what's going. It's catastrophic for MVP to play. And the Kindred used very great on his lamp respite on that part, and then the Arrow kill all the champions right now. Hachani was pretty helpful because he died earlier. That's why he can tell which part to counterattack and which part to get on champions. So Hachani did pretty much great job on even after he dies. And then also Bard did a tremendous job. Even the MVP came off with champions, Bard used the stun to stop them in the last minute of the game. So we were focusing on Caitlyn more than a Karma to fight against. You barely made it through the game in the second match. It was very hard. Did you guys thought about to win them back to make a twisted ending for today's game? It was kind of confusing at that time, but we should use more minions I ordered our team, and I used minions more to end the game. I think I'm the major role for today's game to ordering the team. Congratulations for today's match, and can you tell any resolution for this season? It's definitely summer season is for KT because we're the emperor of summer season, and we want to go to World Championship for today, and we're gonna do very great job for today's match. And thank you again. And it's been a great game, and it was very close game for MVP. And thank you very much. This was Steven. Back to you guys, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Steven, for the translation. You can see Johnny saying, you know what? Yeah, it was me. I was the one that called that game. I'm the one that led us to victory.
And there's a lot of interesting comments there, specifically talking about the unspoken interactions between Someday and Hachani for those Taric stuns in Game 1. It wasn't a proactive call. They were just understanding their limits. So clearly practiced with the Taric and then, of course, the Sivir death. You know, there's a little bit of facetiousness about dying in order to get that early back, but it causes the freeze. It helps Someday out, and KT, they've always been about setting up their top laner for success.
Yeah, and we could see in that last fight there, we finally got a better look at it. Arrow flashing over the Emperor's Divide to get the final hits in on to, Ian and Max, just finishing them out. Beautifully played at the end there, and very clutch on that Lamb's Respite by Score in the end of things. But a 2-0, bit of a crushing defeat for MVP, but still have to feel very good about how they played the majority of that second game. I mean, really, who would have thought that you were going to lose at the Nexus like that? Pretty much nobody. But tomorrow's game's coming up. It's going to be the Jin Air Green Wings versus Longzhu. So our first look at Jin Air, we'll see how these guys have turned things around, because at the end of last split, they weren't looking too hot.
And also a return for Longzhu as well. They've already played one series. Didn't look very good in that first series. They're going to very much want to come back with a win. And Jin Air, that team that overperformed so much in spring. We saw their roster changes, losing GBM, losing Chaser. We thought, okay, not sure about Jin Air. they overperformed. They made it to the playoffs. Let's see how they do in another season, though. Tracer's big reignition as a top force in the top lane was what really propelled them through the early part of last season.
Yeah.
They're going to need a new catalyst, I think, this season. But Tracer, of course, still around.
Yep, you never know what's going to happen as long as you aren't looking particularly strong at the moment. So could be a win that they're able to pick up for themselves. MVP, though, we're going to have to keep an eye on these guys and see how they develop as the split goes on. Their next matchup's going to be against Rock's Tigers next week. Rock's not looking too hot, but maybe MVP can give them a run for their money. We'll see you guys tomorrow, though, for more LCK action. You have a good night.
I know I should let it go, take a different road when I'm driving home, but I don't want to. Delete your number from my phone instead of calling, asking if you're all alone, but I don't want to. Stay